Hey, good evening, all. It is another live show here. I see we've already got quite a few people in the house today. A lot of stuff going on. Today was kind of one of those days. Again, my son is sick again. He's missed 3 days of school just this week, so I had a nice long stay at the doctor's office, the urgent care center today. Hopefully, everybody can hear me. I hope. If somebody can just shout out just to make sure. Let me make sure I'm on the right screen here. I have a secondary laptop going too, so anyway, if anybody can hear me fine, or if there's no sound issues, just please let me know. If somebody can pop that down there. Let's see who we got on tonight. Let me pop over to a different screen here. It's a little easier to see off of OBS. Let's see, sounds fine. Good. That's what I was waiting for. So, issues today. As I said, I did spend some time with my son at an urgent care center today. He's got a fever. He's probably not going to school tomorrow. He's missed a heck of a lot of school. So, things are going on. Unfortunately, I didn't get some things up. He had a high fever last night, and we were borderline taking him to the emergency room. We didn't end up doing that. So, I've got a Patreon video, which will either be up real late tonight or first thing tomorrow. It's already done. It's just a matter of I didn't have a chance with everything else going on. If you didn't see the videos I posted, or the video from yesterday, I had a nice long chat with Benny Klein, who owns a toy company. And this is branching off into business in general. Again, I talk about other things I do. I don't just do eBay. I'm going to answer the questions too. I see I already got a few. Obviously, I answer them in the order they came in. So there's a few up there, which I did see already, which I really want to answer too, because it's something that's an important question that's asked a lot. But with all the conversation yesterday, it's business related. The gentleman Benny here, he's talking about toys and what it's taken him to get out and broadcast, and he does at least 3 different sites. Basically, his Shopify, which is his main store, and then he has eBay and Amazon as well, just like everybody else does, or everybody should have. That's our route. That's where we're going. Everything that I see, everything that I've investigated, that's the only way to do this nowadays. You can't rely on one specific site hardly at all. For those of you who've at least been on for a few years, you know that it slows down in the summer. The one thing that most people haven't been paying attention to is clothing and things like that are slower on eBay this year sooner than they were last year. These are factual. I can go back and pull up the information if that's what somebody needs to see, but that's a fact. And it's happened a little earlier, or the sales dropped a little sooner than, each year as years gone by. You've got more competitors and Poshmark and all these other sites. Poshmark's still just a tiny little speck compared to eBay, but Poshmark is still the third biggest platform for the used sundries that most of us sell. I sold clothes for a long time. We still have some, so not to degrade any specific type of items. You can make anything work if that's what you're looking to do. Anything. You can sell anything. And I have showed hopefully some oddball things that most people would never think work, but that's why it works, because most people don't look outside the box and they sell what everybody else does. We've gotten to be where we are from selling things that the majority of people don't mess with. I don't share everything, so we've got some areas and some interests that, no one else does. And, that's just a key to getting this business to work. And Benny, the conversation yesterday was the same thing. He went outside the box. He picked up the people that, were smaller or newer or took some chances, and it paid off, big time. 15 years of income from his startup, from something that he had no clue on until he started it. So, and that's just the case with a lot of people. Also, if you didn't see the Primetime Treasure Hunter, his channel last night, I was with Dominic last night for an hour or so too, and I was on there live too. So if you haven't seen that as well, he's a real good guy. He's got some real good videos. We've got some similar interests. He's got a full-fledged career besides this, so he's a hard-working individual. So, just like most of the people that you see me interacting. I've got Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler. If you haven't subscribed to him, you darn well should. He's got a lot of good stuff. He works for a charity, and he gets to see stuff at a different angle than a lot of the other stuff. And Chris and I have a lot in common. He's Evilos as well, too, on YouTube. Hopefully I pronounced that right. I've heard it pronounced a few different ways, but sorry, Chris, if that's wrong. So, there's all these other people out there, too, that have similar backgrounds and similar things that they do now, but it's from a different standpoint. If you didn't see the interview with Benny from Tenacious Toys, again, Tenacious Toys, I asked him from his standpoint on what they think of resellers, because he's a toy person, and I thought that was probably one of the most interesting parts, as well as some of the other terms that were brought up, like muling toys or botting toy sites that sell customs, or not customs, so to speak, art toys, low limited production art toys and things like that. So, if you didn't see it, not to glorify a video that I did, but in all honesty, he's a very knowledgeable person. He didn't get to have, a successful company for 15 years without having, similar thoughts and investigating his business. He knows way more of his own business than I thought that there would be needing to be necessary, like how to tell a bot on your site and all these other aspects of it. So, if you haven't had a chance to do that, because he does Amazon, he does all the sites that most people do. He's just has his own niche of toys, which is very interesting in my book. I'd call out on something else here. Walmart's changing their boxes. So, I'm frustrated by the issue because I've asked them, I tried to order and do this and do that. I may still be able to order them, and I'll announce that to all those folks who are getting Walmart boxes. I'm going to shoot you out an alternative. I already have a contact coming in here, and I've talked about this before. It's going to happen now because I need the boxes, and I don't want to mess around with trying to worry about Walmart. So I'm going to go to a box manufacturer. We're going to show you end cuts. We're going to go over cheap boxing methods, and you're going to hear it from a box guy, from the guys who make the boxes. I'm kind of like the Benny and talking about toys and stuff. I'm still working on a time frame where we can get this set up, but you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about from square one, and we're going to go over what you can look for in saving money on boxes, where you can cutthroat them in cheap prices, and things you can do like that. So, it's something that's available everywhere. There's a box manufacturer all over the place, and we'll go into like types and things like that too. And a lot of people ask, what is 2 mil like when you're buying the bags and all that kind of stuff. So, we're going to do something on that as well. So that'll hopefully help to alleviate for those of you who have just now noticed the Walmart issue with the boxes. I buy boxes all the time. So the minute I see something going on in the box category at Walmart, it's, I got to call somebody else is the gist of it. Walmart prices, I buy from Walmart boxes because even from a box manufacturer, if you're buying less than 250 of any size of box, it's actually 2 cents more to buy it per box to buy it from a box manufacturer than it is from eBay or from I keep mixing that from Walmart. Sorry. So 2 cents doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're buying a bunch of them and you still got to pick them up and all the other aspects of it. So we're gonna explain the sourcing on boxes a little better, and we'll talk to somebody. So that's coming up. I've got another project coming up as well with some different video stuff coming up. New changes, more updates are going to be coming. I can almost guarantee you it. Kathy, I don't know if Kathy's on here. Several folks from Australia, I know I saw Brisbane mentioned here in the beginning of this, share some of the information and changes, and I've got links and stuff. I'm going to put it together in a video, just so it's more explained. I don't want to miss anything or state something that's not accurate on what's going on. I do thank our Australian folks there. I don't see Duncan out here yet, but I'm sure he'll have a spider on tonight again too. So there's stuff going on, and I watch the other markets. I explicitly look at other sites now, more so now than ever before, because they're testing all this stuff all over the place. And there's several things going on, including like feedback you can leave on buyers and things along that line, or processes that will be in place. I've read part of it, but with my son being sick and missing 3 days of school and all this, I didn't have a chance to get in and delve into it. And just like video stuff, again, my Patreon video will be up tomorrow for sure, or real late tonight. I don't know how long I'll be up. I only slept like 2.5 hours last night with everything going on, and I had a real nice chat with Dominic as well last night after I did his show, Primetime Treasure Hunter, and we talked for another hour even after the show, which most of the time I don't have time and stuff just because everything else going on, but we were just relaxing, and he's a real good guy, and he's got a nice career, and he's got a family and the whole works. So just Chris and some of the other folks in here do too. So for those of you who've watched me long enough, know family is pretty much the folks that I center around, people who have families and take that more seriously and treat business and personal as a different endeavor. I don't mix and mingle too much of both of them. Not too much. So anyway, I've got a bunch more. I've got a list right here, as I always do. There's probably about 25 topics. I've only touched just a handful of them. So we're going to pop over to some questions here. I know the biggest complaint that I hear is that I don't get to all the questions. I try to answer as many as I can. And I know some people can't be on at any specific time, but I want to answer the questions fully, at least if you're spending the time to come on here and watch my channel and take the time to leave a comment and ask a question. I want to answer it, fully as best I can. I guess that's the benefit of you being on here. I answer them in order they come in. I try to be fair, and I try to get it to as many as I can. Again, I don't get to them all. If I don't get to somebody, it's no offense or meant to anybody. I just first come, first serve. I've been in a customer service-oriented industry for most of my life, and that's just the way I've always done it. I don't care if what's going on. It's first come, first serve. I don't care if God or the Pope himself's at the end of the line. They're waiting in line just like everybody else. So just my take on it. So anyway, I know there was a question up here I want to actually address. And it's print me up. Question: should the seller send eBay feedback first or the buyer, or does feedback matter anyway? Thanks. Other people ask that's a good question as well too. That is a good question. I'm going to tell you what I do, and then I'll discuss why. Firstly, what I do for every single order that's sold, it's an automatic feature. I put it the minute the person pays for the item, it automatically leaves feedback. You can set it up where it randomly leaves 5 different feedback quotes, and it'll just pick one from that list. I do the same one for everybody. That way there can be no comments to say that I did something, I answered one person one way or another. It's fair. Everybody gets the exact same one as long as the transaction went fine. And I take it as leaving feedback the minute they pay as the right thing to do, because if you're in a store, the minute you pay, your transaction is done. You're done. You filed everything to the T and you paid. You checked out. Everything's done. It's now in my hands. So they did everything I asked. And I know people say, don't do that, because at the end of the day, then they can come back and leave negative feedback for you for some reason. They could still do that anyway. So I don't care. Even if something happens and their transaction goes haywire at the end, they still fulfilled their purchase agreement, which is the end of a customer's duty, as long as they're not like conning you, and that's a totally different case anyway. So again, I leave it automatically the minute they pay. I don't care what else happens after that point. If something happens screwy, I don't care. It's still going to stay up there. I'm not going to go back and delete it. I don't care. Up to that point, that's the end of the sale as far as I'm concerned. It's in my hands. I take care of it from there. And, hopefully everything goes through all right. If not, again, as I said, I'm not going to worry if, I left feedback and then something went haywire and I got bad feedback from them. It's just luck of the draw. 99.999% of the time, everything goes through fine and I don't have to worry about anything with any of those kind of things. So again, feedback is essential. I'm the first one to leave it. Show that you're the businessman, you're the professional. Don't wait to see what they're going to do. They did their duty by paying. If you had no issues with them up to the minute that they paid and you're ready to ship it, they did what they're supposed to. So that's my take on it. I would recommend that to anybody in my book. Other people say that's not true. I've gotten, some nasty comments when I've said this in the past. That's the way I do it. You can do it however you want. There's no right or wrong way in my book for most of these, but this one for me, for my personal opinion, how I've done business for 20, 25, 30 years, that's how I would do it. So, and that's how I do it. I never have to worry. If they want to come back and leave feedback, that's fine. And I know there's some other comments and some messages. Carl's got where he leaves slips in the package. And Carl's a great guy. He's a good businessman as well too. I don't do that personally. I don't put that in there. I'm not saying it's wrong, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but when I get a slip in a package, like I don't care what kind of package it is, whether it's a piece of clothing or whatever it is, the slip I never even look at. In all honesty, I don't look at it. And it doesn't mean the majority of people, don't look at it. Never tested that. I don't look at it, and it's not a concern for me. I don't need the feedback. Well, everybody needs feedback, but I'm not worried about getting the feedback. And I fully understand those folks who want the feedback. You're new, you want to build that up, because the bottom line is feedback 100% matters in my book. Customer service is number one. Benny, just like the conversation, I want to keep calling back to this, but this is from a person in a whole different industry basically than what I do or what you do or what anybody else does out here, because he runs a full-fledged, basically like a Toys R Us of sorts for art toys and things like that. So his personal take, and everybody I've ever talked to, every business professional, whether it be Halsum, the owner and president of the Pilot company, the travel truck stop company, which I've met, and I've done some of these things. Number one is customer service. I don't care where you're at. If you don't take care of the customers, you're going to be in sorry water at some point in your career or your business. I know, again, people say feedback doesn't matter, but I personally don't buy from somebody with bad feedback. And Benny said it. Everybody I talk to who's in the loop and who's done this for a long time, especially those people who were like Scott or something, the bearded picker, somebody like that, or Wade or Shane or any of those guys that have their channels as well too. You got to have that customer service. I follow up on some things. If I don't see something, I'll just make sure it's okay. And if somebody leaves a feedback, even if it's a good feedback, and they leave something that's, hey, they were a little troubled, I email them out. I check every feedback that someone leaves for me as well too, to make sure that they were still happy. Even if they leave good feedback, I'm still going to say, hey, was this okay? Can I do something for you? Usually if they're, yeah, I'm okay, I'll still offer them, say, free shipping on any first class packet. That's usually my first go-to offer on something like that. So hopefully that answers the question there. That's literally what let me stop the clock here. I'm sure everybody tells me it sounds like a time bomb going off. So that's my take on it. Again, I've been in customer service beyond belief. I'm going to give you a quick customer service story to tell you how seriously I take it. The vice president of a region I worked in came in. At this point, I was an assistant. I just got into working in restaurants and things, and I wasn't, much of a upper level person at that point. And I've obviously I earned myself to a regional manager spot. This vice president was in the store. He was talking. I was the manager on duty that night. It wasn't an Applebee's, so I'll throw that out there. And this guy handles. At that point, I thought this was huge. He handled, a $20-some-odd million area. It's probably more than that, honestly. I know that was just the two upper parts of the region. So this guy's, big wig. He's a high roller. He reports to the vice president of the company. And he was talking to me and pointing this out, and I was taking notes. A customer came up, and in mid-sentence, while this guy was talking to me, I snubbed him. I instantly stopped talking to him, and he cut his sentence off and gave me the dirty look while I addressed the customer first. I took care of the customer's issue. I walked away without saying another word to the vice president of my area. So, and then afterwards, after I took care of the customer, he pulls me in the office and he tells me, what are you doing? I says, well, I don't care, what the conversation is with you. I've got a customer who pays my bills and who's important in this store because this is a local store. I said, you're from somewhere else. I'm taking care of my business. And if you don't like that, you can fire me on the spot. I said, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and what you guys train me to do. What could he say? He was mad. He says, in the future, don't do it. And in my last conversation I said, if it happens in the future again, I'm going to take care of the customer. Again, if you don't like it, that's your call, but that's what I'm going to do. He pretty much steamed out of the room, and he didn't talk to me the rest of his stay there, and then reported the issue to my boss. My boss told him the same thing I told him. So, you gotta take care of the customers first. And I don't care who's there, what's going on. If I'll relate to the Pope or somebody like that comes in. I don't care who it is. First come, first serve. Customers first. A big thing like working at Disney. A lot of times, and I'll get to the questions. I'm sorry. I just want to address how important this is. Working at Disney, famous people were there all the time. We got to see this or we got to see that. I never worried if it was a famous person or not. If they were in line and the line was going in the progressive order, that's the way it should go no matter what. So, I don't think anybody deserves any special privileges because you're somebody rich. They've already got their privilege in my book. I don't treat anybody different rather for any reason, really, just because that's the way a person I am. And I know people just say that and that's not really who they are, but this is who I am, So anyway, customer service. So anyway, let's move on to something else here. I don't want to be beating a dead horse, so to speak here. Yeah, let's see. Creative Business 339. Print me. I'm curious. The same question there. I wait for delivery confirmation, then leave feedback. You take it how you want. I'm not going to say there's a right or wrong way. I've got my way, and that's the way that I would do it. Just like Carl, I leave feedback for all my buyers once a month. I try to leave it as, again, set it automatically, I say, only because I, want to make sure it gets done. I don't want to let them wait. Some people are wanting feedback just as much as you or I wants feedback when we're first starting off. The people buying from you can want feedback just as badly. So, they want that feedback too. And sometimes people get mad if you don't leave them feedback, so you don't want to ask too much, in an email or something. I don't like the big email thing. I don't email people and I would never do that. I've heard people get bad feedback because they emailed somebody asking where's my feedback. So, I know there's an eloquent way to say it. I just don't think that's a question that I would ever do. So, and Carl does have a point that it will increase your putting the note in there. So here's an example. I couldn't say either way. I personally don't look at any of the notes. If I like the item, I do take the time, 90% of the time, to go in there and leave a comment and say, hey, it was fine, everything was good. If it was a bad deal, I do the same thing. I'll leave them negative feedback. I'm one for, you treat me right, I'm going to treat you right. And if I get a crap deal or something from somebody, or it's not as described, or they just threw a high dollar item in a box with no wrapping, it's not sealed airtight, no cushioning, that kind of stuff drives me nuts when people do that, or sending something and it's damaged because of their poor quality of shipping. So anyway, Oregon Coast Estates, how are you doing? Indiana, buy, sell, repeat, hello. Let me slide down here. Again, my feed does not work so well here. I don't know what it is. I do see Chris, as I said, Chris is here. Galaxy 5000, how are you doing? Treasure Experts, Black Crystal Dice, of course. Aaron, how are you doing? Aaron has been around for quite some time. I actually caught some of his questions on. He was on Primetime Thrift, or Primetime Treasure Hunter as well with Dominique. Let's see, Galaxy 5000. When I first started, I added a card asking for feedback because I wasn't getting any. Then with the cards, I got a lot of feedback. Once I hit top rated, I quit adding the feedback card. That may be the thing to do. I don't do any extra things that are like the card in there. It can work and it cannot work. I mean, it just depends. I literally yank the package up, and if it's a shirt or something for the wife, the package is already gone the minute it's in the door, unless we can reuse it, or I can use it for packing material. I recycle sometimes for stuff like that. So, I don't know what the right answer is on that. I don't do it though. So, and I've got my philosophy. It's just another step I got to worry about. I do print up business cards and things like that. If you're going to spend the money on something, do a business card, so when you're out sourcing and you find these little small mom and pop places you can get in good, and give them contact information to call me back. And usually what you'll want to do on a business card is the basic information on the front, who you are, and all the numbers they can contact you at any time you want. And then on the back of the business card, you can get the actual items that you purchase straight out, cash in hand. I always write that I pay the highest amount for anybody in the area as well. I pay more than everybody else on the card, and that's usually the case as well too. So anyway, hopefully that means something there. Wubba lubba dub dub. Yep, I see that. Let's see, Retro Dottie, how are you doing? I saw her last night too on the show. Oh, the creepy baby head. I am not sure what that's from there. Thrift Shop Hustler. Chris has some creepy baby head, I guess. There's Brisbane. Kathy is the one from Brisbane. I knew I saw that up there. I just didn't catch who it was. John Jones, how are you doing? Let's pop on down here. Again, I do have a list of things I was going to bring up for tonight, so... Well, thank you, Creative Business 339. Hello, everybody else. Marie Deathy Deals, how are you doing? I saw some comments you had left, so I did respond. I don't know if you saw those. Sandra, how are you doing? Hey, Michelle. Larry's Treasures, JS. Flippin' South, welcome. Ollie's Place, how are you doing? Thanks, Joe. Joe 30725. I appreciate that. How are you doing, Gina? Benny is awesome. He's come a long way. Yeah, Benny's a real good guy, I have to say. Benny is, as far as I would say, he's like in the heart of the art toy, designer toy market. I mean, he's right up there with most everybody I see. He's got a real nice store. So I was kind of surprised that it was Shopify, because I've seen some Shopifys that didn't dwell well with using the Shopify name. They just didn't look very good. So, I do investigate, and we are building our own store on our own. So, and that's the first. So it's taken us a little more time than I was hoping. just because if we're going to do it, we're going to categorize and sort everything correctly the first time before we roll anything out. So when it hits live, everything hits live, everything's going to be right the first time. I hate rolling something out and it's not right. Anybody who's worked for somebody knows that your company's probably rolled out some big computer thing or a register issue or a menu option or some new product, and they messed something up. They didn't run through the test, and everybody knows how much hated that is when something's wrong and it should have been caught. So I try to test things these days, to make sure it goes right. Yeah, Chris, Thrift Shop Hustler again. He's talking about Benny here. He's known him for a while, and I know he's worked together. And I've talked to Benny now quite some time. And I've got another conversation. I'm gonna talk to Benny off online for right now, but I'm gonna talk to Benny. I will probably have Benny back on at least towards Christmas time. You'll see a few other people appearing on our channel for sure. We've got some projects in the works and stuff. They're all going to be geared more towards helping you, I guess, could be the question. I don't want to spill any beans yet because I've got some feelers out there, and I've already reached out to some folks, and there's a couple folks on tonight, so I'm not going to call out what's going on yet until everything's been confirmed. Again, I want to make sure everything goes well, and I got some interesting idea here, and I think everybody's going to really enjoy it. It's going to be something totally different that I haven't seen as of yet anyone else doing. So anyway, thank you, Kath. I appreciate that. He's literally laying on the sofa sick. He didn't eat much, and we've got another antibiotics. Not to talk on my son for a second, but this has occupied our time for the last 3 days. So, I still I've met my scheduled deadlines for almost everything. I know I'm late on the video. Patreon will be up tomorrow. The last time when we found out that he had the heart issue, it was over the exact same thing that he's sick right now. And the time before he was sick, it was the same thing again. He's had a sinus infection of some sorts for like 5 times in about a year, which is quite a bit. So, we're probably going to have to look at something else and dwell into some other issues possibly he's got going on. So anyway, that's where my mind's been a little bit lately. So anyway, I appreciate it, Kathy, very kindly. And hey, Carl, I did call you out before, I think. I don't want to miss anybody. Carl's a good guy, as I said. Fact, clothing has been longer tail. Yeah, Chris is calling this out. That is 100% fact. And part of the reason is because there's so many other places to buy it now. Poshmark, and I tried to get a close estimate and an honest estimate. Poshmark, and I quoted like 1/20th of what eBay is. I've been quoted by many people now. It's like 1/40th. So Poshmark is like 1/40th of the eBay clothing market, or eBay in general. So, and that's number 3, but they're still rising considering the next ones down, like Mercari and Bonanza, are minuscule. They're like 1/20th of Poshmark, and even Poshmark's so far down there, not in order or ranking of what they use. And I'm not counting like Walmart or something like that, because Walmart, for the most part, is going to be a wholesale deal. We got to deal with Walmart, not a deal, I should say, but we're approved on Walmart. So, it's only certain items you can sell on Walmart, and it's only going to be our new items. It's only going to be certain specific items to sell on Walmart. So, for the most part, it's Amazon first option for most sellers, eBay second, depending on what you're selling. I'm talking about new items, clothing and stuff like that. So it's Amazon, eBay, and then Poshmark. That's the order that everybody tells me for the most part. eBay doesn't rank number 1, and they haven't for a while, and they know that. They're going head on with them, though. So don't be fooled by the folks that say eBay can't do it and eBay is going to flounder, because everybody keeps saying that, and eBay's still been around. People have been dogging on eBay for 20-some-odd years. My family included. So you're never going to make anything. eBay's not going to go anywhere. You're not going to get anything out of it. And now I'm still laughing at those statements, because at this point, this is all we do. This is what I've done for 7 years. I'm not doing anything else other than online stuff, and it's all because of eBay originally. So nowadays, obviously, we're on other platforms, and Amazon and Discogs and Hipcards and some of these other sites that we do. So, Etsy or something. There's so many other places you can do this at. So, if you haven't seen what's going on, again, as I discussed, if you missed the beginning of the video, the market's changed again just since last year. And you can blame it on other sites. You can blame it on whatever you want. It's not going to help you at all blaming it on somebody. The only thing that's going to help you is figuring out how to get past it. If you haven't noticed, or this is your first year on, the slowdown has started for clothing and those types of items sooner than it has before in the last 10 years, probably. Last year it started a little sooner, dropped off a little more at different times. It had a little peak when it went up. And this year it's actually slowed down for many people. We haven't had that issue because we've switched up our inventory. Our dog has made me allergic to her hair, but anyway, sorry. So, I mean, we're not having all these issues like other people are. We're still, I don't think I have a page open, but we're still up. We're still up a decent amount considering. But for those of you selling returns or selling clothing or books or something, you're going to have to broadcast yourself out because, again, it's slowing down sooner than it did last year. And last year slowed down sooner than it did the year before. Next year, if Poshmark keeps advertising, they're going to step up a little bit farther. It's going to slow down a little bit sooner. So you're going to have to be on the ball. You're going to have to pay attention to the market trends on clothing. You're going to have to pay attention to where people are buying those clothing. If I did clothing, and I wish there was somebody out there who would be interested in doing this, if I did clothing, I would sit there and list the exact same item on the major sites all together at the same time, the same title, and see what happens and which site gives you the best feedback or the best return on it. That's what somebody needs to do. You can't just sell on one site and have a result that means anything. You need to sell the same items, the same time frame of the year on all 3 or 4 sites, whatever sites you're picking, and compare those. You got to compare apples to apples, the same item to the same item, the same time frame, the same atmosphere, the same seasonal everything. That's how you do a legitimate test to see if one site's better than another one. We've done it with the items that I sell, and I've talked about it, like records for us sell better on Amazon than they do, 78 records sell better on Amazon than they do on eBay, dollar for dollar. I get 30% more for a 78 record on Amazon with the fees. The fees are higher on Amazon, and I still take home 30% more on Amazon for every single 78 record that I sell over eBay. Even the same record, because we do cross-list a lot of those items. So you've got to know your market. You've got to know where is the best platform to sell what you have. You can't just rely on eBay anymore. I wished you could, because it would be nice to only have to deal with one platform. You can't do it. That's why we're doing the Sellbrite. That's why we're spending hours of our free time. I spent 16 hours a day on Saturday and Sunday of this past weekend organizing listings all day long. I didn't take a break. I didn't leave. I didn't pull away from the desk. I didn't do anything else other than mess with the laptop that is involved with our business. So that's it. Those are the 2 activities I did for 32 hours in 2-day time frame. That's what it takes to get this going if you're struggling. I know not everybody can do that. There's nothing wrong if you're working or you're retired or you have some other reason that you can't do something. I am not in any way, shape, or form saying everybody should do it that way. It does not work for everybody. Everybody has their own issues, or like us with the medical issue or our kids' issue or anything like that. Another reason why we sourced a ton of stuff through the slow time of year where we get it cheaper. Then I'm not away from my family when I don't need to be. So I'm here in case something happens. So, family first, business, whatever you can do to list things up, that's what you do. You don't blast yourself if you've got medical issues, which I know a lot of people do, including myself or my kids or whatever. You take it at your own pace. There's no right or wrong way to do this, and I can assure you there is no right or wrong way. Every time I run into somebody who's been doing this for a while, I find something new out, something interesting, something I didn't know. Benny shut out the bots. Benny shut out the mules. An activity that I actually did, calling people and having them pick something up at a show so I can resell it for a profit. I didn't know that even had a term to it. I didn't know it had a name to it. The wife actually just walked in, so we're gonna have the wife on. My better half will step on again. And she's brought us some wine here, and I'm not a big heavy drinker, as I think you've seen. I don't drink, but this has been an up and down roller coaster week, so we are all happy. You're on. Yeah, let me hang on, folks, just one second here.
Oh,
yeah,
there I am.
Yeah. So I've got many windows open. We've got many laptops opened. So just bear with me for a minute here. We're working on a live. What would you like control room. I know there's a control room, and I know a lot of people use the Hangouts and stuff, but Hangouts is done at the end of this year, so we're working on Skyping for all of my new videos, and I can have sound and import all of our stuff everywhere, so NDI and stuff like that, so if you're familiar with what that is. So we just talked. Chris is Thrift Shop Hustler, and Carl and everybody here. Tony, I see how you doing, Tony. Can you please explain... Let me go over here because I can't read that. I'm getting old, and I have vision issues, as many of us these days seem to have.
I'm right there with you, babe.
Yeah, she's neither of us used to. Well, I wore glasses for most of my life, but the wife is, just like everybody else. Your vision fades, I guess. I can't see where I'm at even on here. Can you see? Getting when listing a record on Amazon, a record not ready in
Already in the catalog.
Not already in the catalog. I'm ungated in vintage vinyl, and if you don't, 78s are not vinyl. They're shellac. A 78 is not a vinyl record. It is a record, but it's not vinyl. I list the 78s in there anyway, and that's just the category that I was okayed in, so that's where I list them at. I can list anything I want. I've got, I've been ungated. I'm ungated. When you're ungated in a category that has no UPCs, you're waived. They give you can set up your own custom SKU, and then they give the ASIN number. Amazon creates that for me. In fact, well, I know it's in my Patreon. I've actually talked about this, and I actually got a video literally showing how I sell items like that in there. And I'm actually working on another one that hopefully will be out on the weekend in my Q&A for Patreon. Again, I set up my SKU, and I tie it to the same SKUs as I use on eBay, and then that way it's easy to track down the item, because up until recently we were manually pulling all these down, and having the SKU readily available is the easiest point. But again, I can list, there's a sell similar option, or copy listing, I think is what it says. I just click the button. I can't remember the wording it says, but and I literally just pull off one listing in a category I already got. It's basically a template I used, and I put my SKU in, and then once all the information's in there, it's literally Amazon creates the ASIN number, and that's it. And that's for any item I list. I list opened collectible toys even on Amazon. I sold a bunch of the little dunnies and stuff like that used. So you can sell certain items in the collectibles category that you can't. And overall, they sell quicker. I had a whole bunch of little Batman dunnies, and I mean a bunch of them. I don't know, we had 150 or something that I sourced from some wholesale business that we were dealing with. And they were all opened. Every one was out of the box. I don't know if it was some promotional or some BS like that, but every one sold on Amazon. I only sold 2 on eBay out of all of those, and I had the same thing pretty much, but they all sold on Amazon really quickly. I mean, that's just an example of that aspect of it. So again, and they all were custom. I mean, I had one listing with the custom SKU that I used, and then Amazon set everything else up for. So if you know your market, and you know what you can and can't sell, and you're safe about it, there's some items that I won't sell because I don't want to get a slap from Amazon. And for those of you who know, Amazon sometimes can gate you after you've been ungated for years. We're grandfathered in a few things. Scott, the bearded picker, he's grandfathered in some stuff that I'd love to be grandfathered in on, but it's time in, and that's why I say, if you want to grow your business and you're only on one site, I would literally start looking into doing Amazon and trying to get ungated in some things. It's going to cost you $40 a month whether you're selling on there or not the minute you get ungated, but it's a $40 investment in your future. As more and more people start picking at eBay still as they are, eBay is improving, they are changing, but you're going to have to broaden your reach on here. We're going to talk to, I've got the one question I get all the time, and I had some people talk about it and ask, and even on the live chat with Dominic last night, I might throw out some Disney stories, just what it was like working at Disney, just because that's a question I get asked all the time. The wife and I maybe will throw out some responses or something, just because I get that question all the time. And I know it's a reseller channel, but I was surprised how many people are interested in hearing it. For us, it was just what we did. I mean, it wasn't like we said, hey, let's go work for Disney and let's, have all these stuff happen in stories. It wasn't like that. So anyway, where are we at? You remember where we're at, babes?
You were up there. This is the next one.
Okay, Galveston Shelley watching. How you doing, Shelley? Galveston, I think you've got relatives in Galveston, don't you?
I have relatives everywhere.
She's got them all over in Texas. I worked in Dallas for a while. Our company had a big facility in Dallas.
My Uncle Rex used to own and operate the Donut Hole in Pasadena.
Yeah, if you've been to Pasadena,
Texas.
Texas.
That was in the 70s, so...
Networking is the biggest solo trader could have in their toolbox. Networking is very important in what we do. Now, there's 2 kinds of networking. I don't. I know I'm on a social network, and I know I've got social pages, but I'm not. It's not a social. What we're doing in my book isn't as much as a social as it is a how-to business like thing, I guess. Like I'm bad on calling out. I got a whole bunch of people watching, and I'm terrible on calling out the thumbs up. And I know people say that, so I'll call it out. If you haven't hit the thumbs up and you enjoy the video, please put the thumbs up. But I don't call a lot of stuff like that. I get into the content that we're talking about, and she knows. If she isn't on video sometimes on the live feeds, I can get lost in some of my train of thoughts, and that's just ADD and OCD issues that I don't want to be on medication, and I know I could probably be better on my train of thought, but I get all these wild ideas, and a lot of them actually help us or do something, so I'm not one to want to take medicine. So thank goodness at least the wife's here for the feed and stuff. So
Ring you back in.
yeah, I have to ring me back in is exactly right. How you doing, Rusty Raccoon?
Oh, that was nice.
Well, thank you, Sandra. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Well, I'm sorry I didn't catch
Right
that.
here.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Primetime Dominic's a pretty good guy. I was surprised that he's basically has a doctorate degree and he's an associate professor. Somebody else asked me, and why I chose the auction professor. I'm gonna just throw that one out here since I brought up professor. My goal was originally, and we talked about it and stuff. She's fine with the masters, and I'm technically fine with the masters, but I would love to get, or would have loved to have gotten. And in fact, our masters, our thesis professors, and you got to go in front of a board for a thesis for a graduate degree, which is we both have a master's degree. They both were pushing, hey, finish, go do this, go do that, and go to Bowling Green State University and go for and they would have wrote me all the recommendations and the whole works. My project would fit for American Cultural Studies. But after going through the graduate degree and seeing how much of a click, and I fully believe in education in every way, shape, or form. I believe that it's a institution that helps the country in so many ways. But once you're tenured, you're required to write so much. Remember our Japanese?
They had to write books.
They had to write so many books, every so many years to be tenured, to be, a permanent fixture at the university, to get the name of the university out there. And I was dumbfounded. My son's got a mass and balance chemistry class, which is an advanced one for engineering, and the person who runs the class is a grad student. The professor he hasn't even seen in one of these classes yet, and his classes, he's only got like 7 more weeks left, and he hasn't even seen the professor in any of the labs.
He's not real.
He's not a real. I mean, he knows he's there, but the point is that when they get to a certain point, we as a graduate, we were doing stuff for professors in their homework, and we were teaching their class in some cases in the graduate degree programs. You end up doing stuff like that. I taught, a couple weeks fully the whole class for some classes. So, that was my goal, was to do that. I've always been in a position where you had to show everybody what's going on and how to do something. So I would love to have that title as, professor, but I don't want the bureaucracy that goes with it. I don't want to be indebted or to have to follow the idiocracy of some of the mentality in some of the professors, and it's their way or the highway, and
we're too much like beatniks.
Yeah, I guess
we just need some berets and turtlenecks.
I wouldn't say it would be brown nosing to get through the program, but I didn't like it. It reminded me of being back in high school in cliques, and I just couldn't, because every professor recommends either their book that they wrote or their buddy's book that they wrote, and then it's like a clique, and they go to these conventions, and then they recommend all their buddies' books for the class that you are required to buy as a student in that class.
Yeah,
so
and you're like, hey, wait a minute.
So
this book was written by
you
friend.
Or your buddy, your best buddy, and then they talk about him in class, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you're only seeing the side of history or the side of Japanese studies or something, which is a class that we did take because it helps my business. But, so I want to see a broad range. I don't want somebody picking it only because he only believes in that specific type, and you were confined to do that. You'd be doing research for your professor's book through a PhD program, at least like cultural studies or something. So
for me, it was like there was no room for new ideas. You just had to stay the course of
whatever was
this
going on
click,
in the
this certain click of, bleh.
the standard accepted scientific explanation of something
I don't
is
need
what they
that,
want.
man.
And I think the most advancements happen when people like Elon Musk. You either love him or you don't, and I get it either way. He thinks outside the box. Some of his ideas are crazy. I don't get the whole car into space. It's a neat photograph experience, but other than that, so it's the people who think that, who cares how it's done in the past 500 years. It's the person who thinks of a new way to do something that no one else has thought of, because he wasn't following the pack, and that's where we've even been successful, because we do crazy stuff that people think, how the hell are you going to make something doing that? And we've talked about like the horn melons and selling seeds, and that was even brought up.
Yeah.
We made a ton of money. You could sell $1 a seed we got for these horn melon
Those horn
seeds.
melons, they're Kawanos, I guess.
Kawano melon,
Yeah,
that's
Kawano,
what it was.
I think that's how you pronounce it.
It's from like Mozambique or something like that.
I love those little suckers. Those are good.
Nowadays you can't sell them for that much money because they've been mass released in here. But we had the.
If you're in a bind, you can throw them at people and they'll hurt them.
Oh yeah, they're very dangerous.
Pointy.
Don't drop one on a bare foot because they're fairly pointy. But
worse than Legos.
yeah, well, I don't know about worse, but they're right up there.
They were talking about the show.
Yeah, well, thanks. Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Chris. Well, thanks, Black Crystal Dice. Benny is a real good guy. We're definitely going to have him on towards Christmas, because I'm trying to get stuff on here that you're not going to see somewhere else that's going to be more helpful. I don't think 1,000 sellers telling you the same thing is going to be as helpful as looking at it from a different viewpoint. And for those of you who do try to get in and get deals and try to buy out things just to sell, there's a good way to do it and there's a bad way to do it. I don't mind doing it as an RA trip at a store. I'll RA every single item in Walmart's shelf if I know I can make money on it. I wouldn't do it to like a hard guy working like Benny and sit there and bottom and then buy every one of his items in 15 seconds. And everyone who really wants and collects them, and the kids and stuff that want those items, well, that's the end of it. I mean, I can't do that. I would feel I have a moral drawing point where I won't cross in certain items. And again, I'll RA the hell out of something and not have an issue or a concern. What do we got here?
You want me to?
Yeah, I can pull that
Scoot
from.
down?
Thank you, Dominique. I honestly appreciate that. I've got a $10 super chat from him. You never need to come back and do something like that, though, Dominique. I appreciated you putting me on your show as well. It's a mutual thing. And as I said earlier in the video, I had a real good chat with Dominique after the show as well, too. Again, I'm new to all the talking with other people on other shows and having folks on here. Benny is I know I would love to have some resellers on here, and I'm still going back on that. I do have a project in the works, which some are going to be involved in. Mm-hmm. But Benny, you have to. I see things from a different standpoint. I've got years of regional manager experience from every aspect of a company that you can imagine that most people won't even know or see. Benny has a view on stuff that is not from the reseller market. That's what you guys need to get in my book. You need to see it from another standpoint. Dominique, Primetime Treasure Hunters, I brought up front and facing. He knows exactly what I'm talking about because he worked in a similar industry, and most people haven't a clue what that means. Keeping your store full and things like that. So look up front and facing if you don't know what it is. And it's good to know this stuff. This is something you need to know. And Dominique, again, understood the same thing that I'm talking about. It's things like that you need to invest your time and efforts into. So let's see here. Well, thank you as well, Kathy. Again, I didn't have much of a chat chance, and I didn't respond to anybody's chat, and I do apologize. I was more centered in on, and that's why the wife's such a big help when we do stuff like this, because I'm terrible on stuff like that. And sometimes she'll nudge me, and I deserve it, so that's okay. But it's hard to center in on the questions, and I want to give helpful answers. So I just think when I'm doing the interviews, that's where my attention's at, and I don't want to snub anybody, and I try to get some in there, but it's hard. I've got a secondary screen opened from now on too, so we can, if we lose the feedback or the comments on one, I've got it sitting up here on the other side. So
okay. Different perspective.
How you doing, Audrey? I'm sorry,
Right here.
Yes, I really learned a lot. Well, thank you as well, Kathy, on that one too. And Black Crystal Dice. Yeah, Thrift Shop Hustler's a good guy too. He's a man of my own heart in so many ways. So we have similar histories. Got a child. Annie, how you doing, Annie? Yeah, Annie Box guy. Yeah, I'm gonna show you what an end cuts is from the source, and I'll let the guy who I get the end cuts from tell you what it is. I'll give you information if you're local and want to get them. I think they ship too. I don't know exactly how they handle that, but it might be something that could be good for a lot of people, even across the country. Because even 600 feet of bubble wrap for even $25 plus, say $30 in shipping. That's $55 to say $60 for 600 feet of bubble wrap. I'll have to look into the shipping on that if somebody's interested. But it's the only way I get bubble wrap is end cuts. Anytime I need it.
Oh crap! Where are we?
Thrift shop right there.
Oh, right here.
Okay, Audrey again. Hey, Audrey, as I said. Have you done a bolo on pulp magazines? I've touched on pulp magazines, yes.
I wish I would have kept all mine. I found them in my grandma's attic.
30s and 40s pulp and stuff.
Oh, they were awesome.
I'm trying to think what it has on the It's probably from last month. I wish I could remember the name of it. Next time I'll try to have a secondary window open so I can pull stuff up like that while we're doing it and maybe pop them in the feed. Let's see where we at. But yes, I do have one up, Audrey. It is on a list to do some more in-depth. I'll probably have a bolo for Patreon on stuff like that. The only thing it's limited on pulps because most people either don't know what they are or aren't going to see them unless they've been doing this for a while. I can run into pulps a lot, and I can take you right now to a antique mall that there's probably 1,000 pulp from the 20s, 30s, and 40s in their facility right now that are still even worth the making. You can make some money, just not a lot of it on those.
This one and then this one. Oh, right here.
Let's see, Reseller, because no problem. Okay, I'll go back. So let's go down to
right here.
Thinking about getting back into customs this summer. I've been on the semi-retirement, but folks like you have really inspired me to get back into it. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Chris. Thank you. There's money to be made in some things. And like for my clown or any of the other stuff that I do, I would do it whether, and I know people say, well, why would you do it if you're not making any money? Because I like creating stuff. I don't do everything. I do stuff that only sits on the wall in my own house. And I'll do them over and over again until I get that specific thing right.
Yes.
So sometimes I'll have 5 of the exact same drawing, and I'll hate them, and everybody else will like them, and I won't even give them away. I'll usually just throw them away because I don't
like that bird you did, and I liked it, and you threw it away.
Well, there's things that I'm funny on that. I mean, and I had talked to Dominique as well. We were talking about. I'm not going to mention another artist's name or anything like that, but there was something on one of his videos. You can go back and check out his channel if you want to see the video on something that he happened with a Cry for Dawn artist, and I won't mention name. I know the guy somewhat, so I don't want to be siding with anybody on that. But you gotta, I don't know. I totally lost the train of thought on that one.
You're doing.
I'm doing great. Yeah. Maybe I just need a little more wine on that one here, but anyway.
Glass of wine.
Anyway, more power to you, Chris. As I said, I'll hit you up. I would like to talk with a couple folks this week on a project, as I said. So, Chris, I will hit you up for sure. I dropped you that line, and I see you on there too that you responded. I just haven't had a chance to get back to it. So,
okay.
And Kathy, as I said, is one of my Aussie folks who did give me some information. So I greatly appreciate Kathy's help as well. How you doing, Death Piles? It is going fairly well. Again, I do have some issues with our son, so. Anyway.
I made him risotto last night because that's what he wanted.
Our sick child, not me. I like risotto too, but I can't have the cheese. I have major issues. Have to put more item specifics on all listings and ability to report buyers. Yeah, the item specific, and that was literally one of the updates that Kathy was showing me. I didn't get a chance to read it all, but the gist on it is they're going towards, in my personal opinion, with what I looked. I did look over that one real quick. It's going to be mandatory item specifics for stuff that's going to have more than, that's like a Amazon catalog item. That's what it's going to be. It's just going to be like Amazon items. It's going to be the same basic thing for eBay, and they have to do it. There's just no way around it. So I'm sure it's going to be like exemptions for categories I shouldn't say exemptions, but exemptions for you not having to put item specifics. Like I'm probably they're not going to force you to put item specifics on records because a 45 RPM disc can be any size you want. I've had 45s. Obviously 7-inchers, but I've had them 10 inches, I've had them 12 inches, I've had them 16 inches. So, and there's even some little 5-inch 45s and some of the little hip. I think they're hip discs is the other one. So, what's wrong?
I clicked it twice and it didn't move, and then I stopped clicking and then it moved. But someone
Let me pop back up to see. We'll come back down to that.
Someone put, "Holy crap, Don, you're way behind in the chat."
Yeah, that far back. I don't want to miss anything. We'll try and just get to some questions, and I'll try and...
Or you can go off on another story for 20 minutes.
Has it been 20 minutes? See, this is why my wife's on the channel, so, she works for us already. We've got time tonight, so we'll get to as many questions as we can. If we have to run till 9 tonight, we'll run till 9. I think isn't this where we were at? I think we're I see Kathy,
yes,
so...
Yeah. Oh, you collected.
No, I think it's still there, isn't it, right there? Yeah, we're still okay.
Oh, okay.
Black crystal dice. Sleep. I don't know what sleep is. 2 hours last night. So.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, we were talking about the Australia too. How do you spell that postcard site you belong to? Hip postcards or hip cards, I think it's called. I have it. I've got a lot of laptops. Unfortunately, I don't have the one that has.
Laptop.
I need another laptop like I need a hole in the head. But yeah, we are swapping out some laptops. I've got the new hard drive or the new feature on it.
He wants to know how you spell it.
It's HIP. That's what I'm saying. I can't remember. Let me pop over here. Just this one here.
I will be drinking while you do that.
Yeah, it's hippostcards.com. And it's just postcards. They've got like 3 sites. The site used to belong to Stanley Gibbons, if you know what that is. Stanley Gibbons well, they still are, they're the British version of the Scott's price guides for postage stamps. And this site was bought out by several other people. So they've got I think it's a stamp site, a comic site, and the postcard site, which is what we sell on. So
you spelled it for him, HIPPO.
HIP and then the word postcard.com. So hopefully that gets it for you there. Yeah, I answer every question in Patreon, whether it be in a summary or in some cases I have already a video ready to go for YouTube and the question may be answered on a YouTube video, but I answer all of them in a Q&A. Once a week I do a Q&A, and then once in a week on my Patreon I do a BOLO list, and it's a very specific. Now, most people are going to give you a BOLO list, and I've seen other people's BOLO lists. They'll give you a list that has the highest dollar items that sell in that whole category. That's their BOLO list. You're not going to find the highest dollars in all those categories. What you're going to find are the mid-range stuff. You're just going to find a bunch of those. And that's the bread and butter for most people. That's our bread and butter in a lot of things. It's not the high dollar stuff. It's not the low dollar stuff. It's the 20 to, say, 34 or so dollar range stuff that I find over and over and over and over again for $1 or less. That's my BOLO list. The videos on YouTube are more generalized because those areas are valuable. Everything I've showed you in a BOLO is something that I personally have sold in that category, or I sell in that category, and those are legitimate items that aren't just one-offs for the most part. But anyway, hang on, I think we missed. I want to see that one real quick if you don't mind.
Oh, here we go.
Hopefully it doesn't get lost on us. Or are we way off on that one? I thought I already did that one. Yeah, I think we're off. So, yeah, we go up farther. I'm sorry. Yeah, our feedback, as I said, it goes all over the place. It'll disappear, and then when it pops back up, it's in like a mile down on the chat.
You got
okay, here we are. Okay, Rob Horskins. I was reading those the other day and have started updating all of my listings to make sure all of as well item specific. I would imagine Rob then is in Australia or overseas. How you doing, Landshark Picker? He's got a good channel too. If you haven't subbed to Landshark, he's a pretty good guy. He's actually an IT guy as well too, so we have some similar background. And if I'm not mistaken, I did see a video I think that he's got a app that he's actually worked on himself, if I'm not mistaken. Even God, I'm thinking you're talking about customer service. I will snub anybody if it means a customer over someone else.
Yeah, but not Guy, because he can do some serious crap.
And anybody waits. It's first come, first serve. It's in the order. Customer service is first.
He will smite you. I don't want to be smited.
You can slide down, I think. They're just chatting between. You can go down to past... Did we... Oh, there's Theo. Okay. If we missed somebody, holler it back out.
And then you'll get back to them in an hour.
Well, we've got time. Yeah, Kathy, I always leave feedback straight away. Pay it for it. As soon as they pay for it, they get feedback left on everything that I sell. It's automatic. I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to go back, and I don't have to worry about forgetting something. It's automatic every time. Yeah, Rob, talking about, I was leaving 5 different, you can pick up to 5. One incident that lost my statements from some update, and instead of having 5 comments in my saved comment section of 5, it had 1 comment and then a dot at all the rest. And I had a couple people say, "What's the deal with the dot? Did you have a bad experience?" And I didn't even know it did it. So nowadays I just leave the same one for everyone. I don't mess with it.
Grub is coughing.
Hang on, she's going to go check on our son. He's up there hacking his lungs off. So, again, my son's got a real bad sinus infection for like the 2nd time in 4 months. Yeah, Chris, do the automatic setup on feedback and you won't have to worry about that. Yeah, it seems like I did just see you there, Dominic. Surprise, surprise, agree with Don and feedbacks. I always leave it right at first. I always do too. Once they've fulfilled their part, I'm not going to withhold feedback for them to do something. That's like dangling something in front of your it's almost an extortion in a certain way in my book, because you're demanding to see some action from them before you leave it. Now, you can set it up automatically where it leaves feedback the minute it was marked as delivery confirmation. I'm sorry, my dogs are right here and I've got hair flying around. So anyway, I mean, there's other options. You don't just have to leave it immediately when they pay if you don't want to do it that way. Yeah, Galaxy 5000 does it the same way too. And let's hope the feedback or my chat doesn't disappear. Again, I'm very blunt on what I say, so no offense if it's not the way you do it. Don't take it as a bad thing. That's just the way I do stuff. So I'm very straight in front and forward and everything. So that's just me. Print me up here. He's talking about the same thing. I wait until tracking firms been posted, then I leave feedback. If that's what you want to do, no problem. My personal standpoint for my business, again, there's no right or wrong way. It's whatever you want for your business. But for my business, and what I personally would recommend would be to leave it the minute they pay, because if I'm going to a store, the minute my transaction is done at that store is when I'm walking out the door and it's already been paid for. After that point, if I bring it back later on, I should have already rated it, or they should have rated me prior to that point. So customers are bad at leaving feedback. I might 1 in 10 transactions, but whatever. Keep on listening. Yeah, when I first started off, I did worry to some extent. There are ways to boost your feedback and to help out. Lists a whole bunch of cheap items that will sell, even if you're only making 50 cents or $1. Do a whole bunch of cheaper stuff to at least get it going out. You know, you can, and that's another way to negate a bad feedback too. So let's say you get a bad feedback, you can flood it with better feedbacks to at least lessen the percentage that it's killing you. Like, I've got so much feedback sometimes of the year that I could probably take a couple negatives and it'd still say 100% because it still didn't drop below they round off. So, you know, that's just another thinking on that too. So, and prime time, same thing, Dominique, 100% customer service #1. That's definitely the case. And Rob here again, sending a card in there. You know, someone else would be better to ask on sending a card. I don't do it and I don't read them personally. So, you know, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's not. I don't know. I don't spend the time because I don't even look at it. I mean, most people I know, I've done this for a long time. This has been my life. 20 plus years we've been on eBay. So I've long since dropped some of those kind of things. And I don't rotate that kind of stuff back in there. And again, nothing wrong with it. I'm not criticizing anybody for doing it in any way, shape, or form. But for my time, I just don't mess with it. I'd rather spend the money on business cards because that returns me money versus feedback. Again, I'm farther along in business than some folks are. So, Carl, I always underline parts of my packing slip text and sign my name and number of people that have left me feedback mentioning the personal touch is large. Again, that could be a very good thing. But again, people leave me notes and stuff. I don't read them. I used to pay a lot of attention to that, but nowadays, Benny brought this up, you know, that things turn into a business and you don't think of things anymore other than profits. I still do think of other things, but the profits are the underlying factor, so I don't read all those notes and stuff, even if I'm just buying a piece or a shirt or new shoes or something offline. Hey, Scott, how are you doing? Well, thank you. Dominique is on right now, too, so he will appreciate that as well. And my chat just disappeared. Hang on. My chat is terrible, as I said. I don't know if that's everybody's experience on it, but mine is. and always perspective on. I've bought into. I won't leave feedback till they do, but my gut loves you. Your take on it. I don't wait. You're withholding something from them. That's almost an extortion racket. Yeah, I stopped the clock there, Aaron, so to speak. I know I'm very far behind. I'm going to stop. I'm just going to go down to the next question, not to snub anybody else, but I'm going to try to get to questions here for a minute here. And I apologize. If you got a question, I accidentally missed it. It's not intentional. Please just come back to it. That dude sounds like a turd. I'm not who sure Chris is talking about. Oh, you're talking. Okay, I got you, Chris. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm far behind. Let me go back up to the questions again. Let's see here. Question: what if someone? Okay, Nobleness D. What if someone just drops you contact information you didn't want it? Is eBay going to charge you? I think I'm missing what the question is. What if someone just drops you contact information you didn't want it? Is eBay going to charge you? Yeah, I'm not sure what the question is. Maybe I'm just not understanding the question. If you can just kind of clarify that, I'll be happy to answer it. And there's Craig Landshark again. You're doing pretty good. Just my son. We got son issues right now. For those who didn't hear that, I know the feeling. I love listening to podcasts while I drive. I don't listen to podcasts in the car. I got something cranked usually in my car. Usually it's on what's it? Hair Network. I think on XM. I'm XM all the way. So it's Ozzy's channel, Hair Network. Lithium's one of my favorites. I listen to 80s. There's a real good hip hop on there too that plays old school as well. Those are like the top four I would say I listen to if I'm in the car. Let's see here. Trying to get down to questions again, as I said. Yeah, my business cards are mostly for people I want to buy from. How you doing, Brenda, from Georgia Campground? Thanks, Land Shark. Again, it's a royalty-free picture, so I wanted bricks that were smaller, but we've taken some photos, so I have to process them. I want them the right quality is all. Yeah, to each their own, Chris. There is no right or wrong answer. Landshark Picker's doing inventory stuff, which I've had my fun share of this week too. 32 hours in 2 days. Dinah Cox, I take great care to describe accurately and pack with great care with nice supplies. The feedback takes care of itself. It does to some extent. As Kathy and a few others said, people don't leave feedback as much because they think it's just eBay. They don't see a lot of people as an individual person these days. It seems like it's just eBay. So if someone's screwing you over, they're screwing eBay, they think, and not you.
I'm back.
Shipping an item to AU now. Yeah, we ship to Australia. That is one of the few countries that I ship directly to.
Are you trying to get to them more?
Yeah, I'm trying to fast forward down and just get some questions answered.
Poor things.
And there's Chris picking on me there. Thanks, Chris. Hi from New Jersey. Thank you, Melissa. San Antonio we have been to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, hit the thumbs up. I know. I'm terrible on doing that. Let me pop back up here because I didn't see that. Well, thank you very much, Carl. Again, Carl's a real big supporter of our content. He's a good supporter of Dominique's. I'm sure he's on other channels as well, as many people are. Just like you can't just sell on one site. You can't just watch one YouTube channel. I watch YouTube channels occasionally, not nearly as much as I used to. There's very few that I have the time to watch anymore. I used to pop it in the mornings, but with issues with my son and his appointment, and he's sick, and he's been sick an awful lot. I'm cutting out things. I cut off money coming in the other day by removing a feature in Patreon, even though it was money coming in, because the money isn't what I think about for the most part. I think about stability and the family, so I cut off some revenue just because I want to spend more time with the family, and I'm able to do that, so I'm blessed the fact for that point too. Thank you, Melissa. Let me think where we. Let me pop down and let's get some more questions again. Let's see what time we got. So as I've cut off the time bomb clock up here. Oh, we got plenty of time. I'll go to back some. Let's get to the questions and we can maybe pop back and forth and stuff on here.
I petted him a little bit and got him something to drink.
He's not an animal though.
I know, but he's my baby.
The old country, San Antonio. Spill the beans. We'll throw some Disney stories out if that's what you're talking about there. I get the Disney question all the time.
What was that? Rapunzel or Godiva that was nude behind, right when you entered
Godiva.
Mr. Toad's
Godiva.
Wild Ride?
Yeah, there's nudity in Disney, believe it or not.
Well, not anymore.
Nah, they tore it down.
Yeah,
I don't even know what it is anymore.
But I have a picture of it.
I will tell you guys a Mr. Toad's Wild Ride story that either will freak you out or, well, it'll probably just bother you. I'll tell you it either way.
It'll give you nightmares.
But again, thank you, Carl, as I was getting to before. I don't want to miss that one either. I will spill some beans on a horrific story from Disney.
Remember the cops getting in a fight in our
restaurant? They got
restaurant?
stabbed in our restaurant.
Yes.
And one cop stabbed another cop, and they were from New York, in our restaurant, in front of customers. I don't know what the case was because we were new out there. And
that was fun.
We never heard the end result of what happened.
Who are you going to call, the cops?
Let's see here. Let me go back down. Thank you again, Carl. Let me keep going down here. I'm trying to get some questions here. Again, thanks everybody for the prayers and thoughts. Thanks as well, Landshark.
Extra vitamin C. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've got vitamin C here,
too. I already gave him. I already pumped him.
We do vitamins, the daily vitamins every day for everybody here. Welcome, House of Treasures.
We gotta go back to Tennessee.
Drove up through Memphis. We've been through Memphis many times.
Smoky Mountains. We gotta go there.
We've been through there too. We've driven through that area, Smoky Mountains. Heartland Ranch TV. Don, do you recommend a business landing page for a wholesale business? I'm trying to get started with wholesale and want to seem as professional as possible to get better deals. Yes. The question 100% to that is yes. Now, I touched on this on Dominique on Primetime Treasure Hunter last night. Even if you're not a big monster-sized company, no matter what you're doing, you want to look like you are. Perceived value, perceived perception of a company is better than the actual value of the item. And that's why we do sell things for more money, is because of stuff like that. Business cards, having a website and having business cards. For $10 a month, you can have a professional-looking wholesale website. So, many options to do it. And for $10, you can get yourself 1,000 business cards off of GotPrint or some other site like that. We use GotPrint basically for many items that we do have printed. So, that's the key to it. Yes, set yourself up a website if that's your thing. I would probably get yourself in the door to one wholesaler first to see what kind of questions you're going to have to deal with. Pick one that you don't think you might get into, one that you're not really. Pick just one at random if that's what it takes, just to see what they're going. Look up some questions that you might have to answer. Look up the paperwork. A good plus on doing wholesale is that you have a BOP, and I talk about it for other aspects of it, but I have BOPs, I have writs, I have every aspect of a normal company would have. So it helps you look professional, I could say. So if when I go into a wholesaler, I've got a binder of paperwork. I've got my EIN number. I've got my, contracts that I've signed in the past. I've already got contracts in there if I need to supply contracts. I have, site references. I've got the business card, professional. I've got several different business cards. It depends on what type of business. Always have a business card for whatever activity you're doing. So I've got a wholesale-only business card. So when I go to a wholesaler, it looks like that's all I do is wholesale business. If I'm at an art supply or a toy thing or a collectibles market, I have a collectibles item specific business card. So that's how you take it. So like if you're doing like a resume for something, this is the same example, and this is why I do it. If you're doing a resume for one type of job, your cover letter needs to be specific to that business or that job. Your call-outs to these specific companies that you want to do wholesale in needs to be the same thing. We started in wholesale with buying CDs of religious music, and I had everything in the row. I went to their place of business. I wasn't literally trying to get in there, but I wanted them to know who I was, and one thing led to another, business card, phone calls, and then boom, we've got 1,500 brand new NOS wholesale deal with CDs, and I'm ungated on Amazon instantly with an invoice. That's where it started from us, so.
Both dogs are begging for me to pick them up.
Yeah, there's
love 'em.
Hairball. That's Jinx if you haven't seen her. She's a full-blood, 100% Chihuahua, and she's nervous.
Yeah.
All the lights and stuff.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, the hair gets a little bit much, though. But, you know, it's a dog.
Now she's going to hack up on the carpet.
Let me slide down. Let me slide down first.
I'll let you slide down.
Yeah, it slides all over the place.
Henry.
Urbanski. I actually went to school with somebody, Urbanski, and around here they actually own an ambulance service, and I went to school with one of the daughters of the Urbanski ambulance service. You know, for us to get where we're at, it's just taken us time, and a lot of time, and a lot of effort. I mean, you're not just going to get to overnight. We did it for a long, 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 long time before we got anywhere, so anyway. Where are we at? Any thoughts on Real? I have no idea what Real is. If things change, you have to be fluid and adjust to be successful. Landshark Picker is exactly right. Whatever they change, I just change with it. I don't care what it is anymore. I'm not going to sit there and nitpick at what eBay does, or if Amazon gates me in something that I wasn't gated in for 5 years. I'm just going to go and find another place to sell it, or if I can't sell it that way, I'll liquidate what we have and we'll just sell something else.
I've got dog hair.
Yeah, I was going to say, we both have dog hair now, but you got to love your animals, so anyway.
Yeah. Even the squirrels outside.
Yeah, she's Ellie Mae Clampett here.
Yes.
She's named all the squirrels that feed up on our deck, but
I had a pet possum named Eugene when I was a kid.
seen the pictures. I know that's what she had.
My dad was about to smack it in the head with a baseball bat, and I saved it.
I'm sure her dad was happy about that.
He was going to give it to Annie. This lady Annie, she was well known for liking possum. She would make coats out of their fur and eat them.
We've seen stuff like that in the country. Annie's got, despite how hard it may be getting to sell clothing.
Different Annie. I just talked about you.
On eBay, even mainstream financial outlets are taking note of the boom in the secondhand clothing economy, which is good in the big picture. Annie's right. It is good in the big picture, but now there's a big button here. For all those who know what's going on, for those who go to like Goodwill, there's upscale Goodwills who sell designer name clothing for hundreds of dollars. They actually auction. The prices of everything used are going up, and the prices of new stuff are going down.
Wow.
By the companies have lowered their own prices. Go to the mall and see what the prices are.
Oh, there's nothing good in the mall.
Well, we don't like the clothes in the mall, but the price-wise...
Maybe I'm just getting too old and I don't like the style.
We thought about that too, style-wise. But
it stinks.
when you go to the mall, the prices overall, from what I've seen from year to year, are going down on new clothing. Again, because they know what's going on. So the end result is here, it's going to be harder to sell used clothing. And it's getting that way now. Just like I said, the amount of... how soon it drops off towards summer and after the holidays is getting sooner and sooner. So it's a bigger drop, not for us because we don't sell that kind of stuff, but you know, I get comments and questions all the time. It's daily endeavor that I get these questions and comments and statements about stuff like how their sales are going. So
those vintage Levi's polyester pants from the 70s that the kids love and we can't sell them. You know, if we could sell them, we'd make a nice penny off of them.
Yeah, my son has picked up. We have a what kind of pair of pants is that?
I can go get them.
Well, you don't have to go get them. We'll have to run get them. But
they're 1978 or 79 Levi's. They're a polyester.
They're reddish.
Burgundy.
Well, burgundy red, yeah.
Like boot cuts, you know.
And they go for hundreds of dollars online, and he's wearing them to school because that's hot.
Because
I don't get it, but you know, if that's what people want to wear, I guess. Let's see. Landing pages can work, but it should lead to more info on the site about you, what you do, what you stock, all that sort of thing. Just a landing. Yeah, that's exactly. That's why I said you have to look professional. You have to be able to offer them something. That's why when I go into a wholesaler's office, or I'm going to a trade show specific, I carry a binder with me of things that I've done in the past, things that I've sold. people that I have dealings with now, including like a page, like one piece of paper in full color that shows their web page, and these are my clients. It's my client book, basically. When I did artwork and mural work, I used to have books on counters of interior decorators of my artwork, and you remember we had to put those together, and that way they could order specific murals or whatever they were doing from these books, and they'd know what I did. They could see work that I've done. It's the same principle with the wholesaler too. That's why I say the business card you need to have very specific to what you do. I'm not going to go tell anybody to lie, but the more official and the more types of things that you do on it, let's say you've sold some CDs online. So if you want to get into wholesale and music, you can say wholesaler, wholesale company with media clientele and media sales or something along that line. Just word it a little differently without being dishonest on it. You want to, like a garbage man is a glorified waste disposal technician or something along that line. I've got a cousin who used to work for the city, so there's nothing wrong with any job, dirty or clean. I watched a video about a guy that escaped from prison, and he was selling on eBay from inside prison and had a guard shipping the items. I could see that. I hate to say it, but I could see that.
That's thinking outside the cell.
We made $5,500 last month on Real. I'm going to have to write that down. I have no idea what Real is.
It's real.
I've had somebody else bring that up, and I hadn't a clue what they were talking about. Right now, we've got our hands full with the sites we deal on because, again, I picked the we sell on the top two biggest sites for what we do, and Etsy's on there too. When I talk about, like, it's eBay, or it's Amazon, eBay, and Poshmark, but if you're selling, like, certain items, vintage and stuff, Etsy is right after eBay. It's Amazon, eBay, and then Etsy. Depending on what you sell. If you're selling clothing, it's Amazon, eBay, and then Poshmark. It just depends on what you're selling, just like anything else. You got to send in very high end. Yeah, most people. I can't get high end. If you're talking about clothing, if that's what Real is.
Come here. Come on.
Yeah, and I know Kathy is in Australia, so she's limited on what she can have.
Oh, poor little thing. It's okay.
Would be a good test with an item you have multiple quantities of. If you're doing tests, again, you got to do them on all three sites or all on multiple sites at the exact same time, the same title, the same photo. It's the only way you can compare one to the other. So let's say you want to see what a sale's going, and I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but you can't judge it unless you have something to compare it to. It's called a baseline. You have to have a baseline for any of these tests or experiments that you do with sales to prove that one way works over the other way. If you only have one line of tests to do, you have nothing to compare it to because you could have sold those items either way. So, and that goes with anything, any kind of test you do. Whether it's a test to see if a card goes out or something, that one's going to be a tough one to test in practicality anyway.
The dogs.
Amazon Opals. Yeah, our dogs are just waiting to be picked back up, it looks like.
They're right here by my feet.
Yeah, they're people dogs. Let me get down and see if we can get some questions. I can still see I'm way off.
Yeah. You're always way off. I'm just kidding.
Let's see.
I love you.
I list on 4 sites clothing and get better results on Poshmark, and eBay is one of the 4. It just depends on what you sell and how much effort you want to put into it, I should say. I don't like clothing. In fact, I despise clothing these days, in all honesty. Hoptman, I list the same clothing on eBay, Poshmark, Mercado, and usually I get the best results on Posh, then Mercado and eBay. It's always last for clothing unless vintage. Yeah, vintage clothing I would say would sell better because we do still mess with some vintage.
Yeah.
Some of it we keep because we like dressing up
Oh,
and
the
doing
jackets.
photos. Jackets-wise, we've probably got about 70 jackets that we actually own, but pretty much all 4 of us can wear the same jacket if we really wanted to. We're all about the same size.
Those 1970s red leather or burgundy leather
I got
jackets.
that candy apple one too.
Yeah.
I do mostly Poshmark, but cross-post to eBay. Certain brands sell better on Poshmark that don't sell on eBay and vice versa. That's exactly right. You got to know your area, what you're selling, and which site's the best platform.
Right here, what is the lower condition?
What is the lower condition on a 78 to be viable? I don't do anything on an average 78 unless it's at least a V- or better. VJM is the standard for 78 records if you don't know the difference. Goldmine is what most people will say to use, but Goldmine is not what a audiophile on 78 records is going to use. They're going to use VJM, and the standard would be like a V minus I buy a V, a V plus, an E minus, an E plus, and then there's I think the next one is N, which I wouldn't use in the first place because nothing's new or mint. So anyway, but if it's like let's say I've got a Rocket 88 on a Chess 78, the record goes for say $5,000 is probably an honest guess. That's considered the first rock and roll record ever pressed. I've had a broken one that was in two pieces that I could still sell because the record itself, we taped it back together. It still played, and it still played fairly well, considering 78s are a different monster than any other records. I don't mess with anything below mid grade on a 45 again unless it's worth a ton of money. Ton of money meaning like thousands usually.
That
on that
person who bought that record, he had a special player that.
We got the same thing.
Yeah,
we can
that could
digitally.
just-
We have a laser player.
Well,
too.
that was before. I mean, that was like when we first started.
You can digitally get that out. We have a laser turntable too. I have not had much success on. I haven't either. We gave it up. It wasn't worth the hassle for us. Again, it's a good platform, so I'm not dogging on it. It's just for us, for what I do. I don't want to do clothing. Neither of us like taking clothing photos. I despise it. I despise the measurements, honestly. It's more a pet peeve. I don't hate it. I got so many other things we could do and not have to deal with it. It's hard to do a scientific method test with clothing across sites because of the site's different. That's true too. So that's what I'm saying. It depends. If I'm selling a postcard identical on 3 or 4 different sites, I can judge fairly well because it's something. It's either going to be rare or it's not. And most of the time, eBay is still the number one source. And I talked about like hip postcards. Those are where I sell most of my cheaper, say, $4 to $15 price range. That's where most of those sell on. And they sell fairly regularly on there. But eBay is the place to go for most of the rare stuff that goes for high dollar.
The dogs have. One of them has gas, and they're sitting right.
Well, that's
there.
nice.
I mean, that is all. You think it's nice? It's awful. Need some air freshener to squirt at them.
There's some around there somewhere. Let's get down to some more questions. Well, thanks for listening, at least, Kathy. There, how you doing, Anthony? Yeah, I'm gonna go over the box thing, Aaron, and I'll just because I'm gonna have. I use the same size. I don't care if I got to spend 2 cents more if that's my only option. I'm gonna do that just because it's so convenient. All my stuff is based on like only a couple boxes. I can ship anything in just like 2 boxes across the board.
Somebody likes the Coca-Cola peach.
Yeah, they've got the Georgia peach, Coca-Cola, and they've got what's the other one? Raspberry.
Raspberry, but
Yeah.
that's too sweet for me.
Yeah, I'm not a big sweet
The Georgia
person.
peach is right up my alley. I love that.
I think we're saying that. With my 75-year-old husband health issues, I sometimes struggle. Again, you do everything at your own pace. I know I'm way off now. Let me try and get caught back up here. Again, we can stay on for a little while. I'm not going to be cutting it off. Let me see where we're at. We'll do another 30 minutes or so here, too. My phone's going off the hook here, too, so I'll just leave that for now. Yeah, the peach was good, the Coke. We do buy it pretty much regularly here. Wife's name?
Which one?
Your name. What's your
I know. I'm just saying. I've got 3 different names.
Marky. Everybody calls her Marky.
That's my nickname, but everybody knows me by Marky.
So that tells me how far off we are. Let me try and get
Yeah.
down to some questions here.
That was at like what 7:30. So
Yeah, I
way
looked into
off.
Zoom too. Yeah, we're way
Hey,
off.
somebody likes my glasses. The Flippin' South. Thank you.
We ordered those off Amazon.
Amazon. Yeah, I got 4 pair.
Yeah, we buy them in bulk.
You can have 1 or 4 of them. Yeah, I'll take 4. Because I
Janet
sit on
Planet.
them.
I wonder if your Janet Planet's a takeoff on Schoolhouse Rock because
I
that
love
was one of the
that.
ones, and I know the lyrics to that from the school from back in the day.
Now I've got that going in my head.
You can Skype now with on YouTube, and you can just interact with OBS as well. So that's what we're going to be doing. I've already tested it, and I've got a lost sound. And in fact, the other day I had my chat with Benny. My sound disappeared from Benny, and he if he would have jumped in when before I started, it would have been fine. But once he jumped in at the end, I had a stray sound carrier signal coming in to my system, and everything routes through our network. I have a network in my facility, so everything routed into the network, and it thought it was a stray, basically a spy, like a malware or something, and he was flagged, and I didn't even think to look at that. So that's literally what had happened with us. So let me pop up here. kills Skype in my opinion. Use it for lots of different applications, seminars, webinars. I'll have to write that down because I did look at that Zoom and it just didn't do it didn't integrate with OBS or Streamlabs basically. Yeah, Similar is what I use for everything. Let me pop down and get some more questions in here.
You okay?
Let's see where we at. Marianella, is fulfilled by merchant a good starting point for beginners? Yes. FBA, know the platform before you do your FBA because you can really get yourself into some trouble doing FBA without knowing the platform enough. I would say start selling, get some items out there, get some sales under your belt so you know how everything works. At least you're going to know how all the forms work and what to list and how to list it, and you understand the whole process there. And then from there, do a small FBA order. You can, get a small box sending in there. It might cost you a few more bucks to send a small box versus a huge order, but you need to know the flow of it and how everything works. I didn't do FBA immediately. We started with a few items. I sold some books, merchant fulfilled, and then we branched out into FBA with the books. And we obviously dropped most of the FBA books after they raised the fees and stuff, because our bread and butter used to be, $5 to say $10 profit books. That's take home, of course. Let's see here, Tony. I don't know if I am ungated, but I can list the record if it's already on Amazon. So thinking that means I am ungated. This is for 7/8 but I can't when it's not already on Amazon. Watch out. It's in some instances I've seen people who were able to do that, but they weren't authorized to do it. So I'd be cautious only on that category, in my personal opinion. You are probably still gated if it will not allow you to create your own listing for a non-listed record. I list stuff even on, stuff. As long as Amazon isn't my competitor, I will create a new listing for almost anything. And as long as I'm ungated on it, like Migos or something like that, or some of the Dunnies or something that we happen to sell as well too. So just keep that in mind. I would be a little cautious on that. Ungated means you can do your own listings in that category, at least for the items that I sell, in historical or vintage vinyl as well. And there are two different categories for records on Amazon. There's brand new ones, with barcodes and all, because obviously records are still pressed as well in large numbers these days because they're retro now. But the vintage ones, obviously, there's no barcode. So to be ungated in vintage, you would have the ability to create your own custom SKU, and then that would allow Amazon to create your AIS or ASIN number on it for your ASIN number for it anyway. Hopefully that makes sense.
How are you?
Kathy, Amazon scares me a bit, though. Did send my first FBA shipment through to Australia, so far not. Amazon or Australia is kind of dead. Yeah, I have no experience on the Amazon foreign sites at all. And if it's eBay, I have read most of their site information and stuff, just because nice folks like you who do help me out and give me information point me to these places. Don, have you ever had your items pulled off of eBay or told you could not sell for a day? No, I've never been blacklisted or pulled from selling something like that. The last item I got, and it's a known one, is what's those 14 karat gold pens? Maybe it was Pierre Cardin. There's a pen. I had a pen up that was 14 karat gold, and it's marked with, I can't remember the name of it, but they're fake. They're real gold, but they're not made by the company. eBay told me to remove it before they did something. That's the only time I've had an issue like that. Other than that, I can't think of an item, at least in the last 2 or 3 years, that had it. I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago they pulled an item on me and then just said don't list that item again. Or maybe it was a title wording. Maybe it was over the bone. You can't list just bone, or genuine bone in a title without stating the specific kind of bone it is. I think they maybe sent us a notice on that a year or two ago. Maybe it was on a bone item. It was a necklace, maybe a tribal piece. You have to list the type of bone because some types of bone you can't sell. So, you're always safe with bovine. Bovine, if it's bovine bone, which is cow bone, you're always safe to sell that. So,
like the tortoiseshell buttons.
Tortoiseshell buttons. In fact, we have a couple tortoiseshell pieces from their ones from like 1750s or so. It's a real nice pin. It's inlaid with hand hammered out sterling or silver. It wouldn't be sterling. It'd probably be like 800 or so grade, what I would say. And she likes the piece, so we kept it, but It's vintage, and I can prove it's vintage. At least I have a purchase from a facility.
Can't sell it, though.
I can't sell it though. Yes, that's of course.
This is right here.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to the questions. So if I'm snubbing anybody, I'm just going down to the questions. Right here, that's the questions for Landshark. Let's go down a little further.
Right here.
Let me get that up to the top. I bought an old journal at an estate sale. It has cutouts of old comics and a scrapbook. I bought it because it was cool, but didn't know how to look it up to sell. If it's comic books that were cut up, for the most part, they're not going to be worth much unless it's the front cover from a 1930s or 40s comic book. Otherwise, you're going to sell it online. You're going to have to sell it as a whole book. They're not going to be worth a ton of money if it's like from the 30s or past, unless it's like, say, Sunday comic strips from a whole bunch. But again, most people aren't going to want those in a book form. They're going to want them out so they can mount them or remove the acid and store them properly for the most part. And we've sold all those areas, so I'm just giving you my personal experience on that. Let's see here. I had to
scroll down.
Hang on. I had called and spoke to listing specialists. They said it was fine and put the item back up. 2 days later, I got a message that it was down and I couldn't list for 3 days. Yeah, they're automatically flagged on eBay. There's not a person who flags all these items. If someone reports a Vero, a company calls in, and it's just going to automatically happen for the most part. But somebody else, as I said, can call in and have it reported in person. But everyone that happens to is an issue like that. Somebody pointed me to another person. I can't remember the name of the show, but he was selling, maybe it was flea medicine or something, I want to say.
It was flea medicine.
Yeah, I didn't watch the whole thing. Maybe she did, but I didn't get to see the whole thing. And they got booted from eBay. They shut them down like 3 times over the same item, even though eBay said technically you could sell it. But it really comes down to who's online at eBay for some of the items. Many items, though, it's auto-flagged from everything I can see because, as I said, years ago it was like that. We got flagged on something and then it ended up just going right back up. But
yeah, this, and then you have Kathy. I have a master's in health science. Hasn't helped me at all in terms of employment. I know. What are you going to do?
yeah, as I said, we both have a master's degree, not just me. It sits up on the wall. We're very proud of that fact, but
I went through a lot of stress.
Yeah, a lot of stress. Why don't you slide down then?
Did a lot of stress eating too.
Yeah, we ate a lot of pizza, unfortunately. Yeah, I already got that one. That tells you how far off we. Hang on. I keep going down. See if you can find a question. Yeah, I'm still way off. I can see on my feed. Anyone know when the full spring update on eBay will come out? It's supposed to be up by the end of this month. That's what their quoted thing. It says end of April, literally on the page. I read it this morning.
No, they're just talking about the PhDs.
One of my class professors was like that. Everything in class was written by him. Laugh out. Yeah, that's exactly the way to do it.
Oh, look, Annie.
Hang on, I want to make sure. I think I just heard that some of the big tech companies, Google, Apple, dropped their requirements for college degrees for employees. They didn't. They raised them at one point. We know somebody who's in high school who was Apple paid him to go out there and stuff. So you don't even need a degree, or you didn't. I don't know what the standpoint is now, but like let's say 8-10 years ago with Apple or something, they would hire people off the street. You know, I know people like that were hired there. So yeah, that is true. I don't keep up on Apple or anything. I'm not an Apple fan at all.
Talk about the Kawano seeds, Monsanto.
Oh yeah, Monsanto. We've watched all the Monsanto's things, but you know, I'm not going to go there tonight. Yeah, I have a degree and I've got an A+, I've got a Net+, I've got a Safety+, and I've got Microsoft certs. But did I really need those? No. Unless I wanted to get into a very specific type of company, no, I probably wouldn't need them.
Heartland Ranch TV.
Oh, Scott.
I was.
Hang on, Scott. Ra is dead. Move along. No. Scott's trying to be. I'm just sorry, but Scott's being a smartass here, which is fine. Ra is not dead. I know Scott's an Ra king out there when it comes to Ra. So, anyway.
The little thing you put at the end.
Yeah, he's trying to. Scott's a funny guy there.
Yeah,
he amuses me like a clown.
I was very disappointed when we were working on our masters and looking towards the doctorate, and I was just. It wasn't. I guess I was. I thought that was open to new ideas, and then it was just so stifled, and you had to follow along, and
Yeah, that's definitely
yeah,
it. Let's slide down. Let's get
you
some
don't
more
get
questions.
anywhere if you're going to be stagnated.
Questions. Let's look for questions. Working on Barbie dresses. Kathy, I'm working on one-of-a-kind Barbie dresses. They do sell.
Yeah, that lady, she put her kids through college sewing them.
I'll have to figure out if we can find that site, but there's a lady who put her kids through college. She pointed it out to me. She saw it. All she did was Barbie dresses, and she sold some, like she did Jackie O dresses. Like
And
Jackie
it wasn't
Onassis.
like your grandmother knitting
No,
some
it
crappy
looked like
thing.
it was better than the Barbie pre-made designer
nice.
dresses you get on like a Bob Mackie Barbie.
Yeah, like the Bob Mackies.
Her dresses, if you took a picture of it, you know, and didn't know that it was a miniature dress, you would have sworn it was one of these pricey dresses that you could wear because you couldn't tell. The stitches were just.
Oh yeah.
It was a very interesting thing to see, I have to say.
You want me to go down?
Yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah, we're way off. I'm sorry, folks. Again, I try to answer everybody's question, and you know, I'm always here to do that. If you didn't get your question in, you know, pop them in early, or you know, you can put the @ sign there so it pops up to me too, so I don't miss it.
Right here.
Well, thank you, Landshark, too.
Maybe that's for somebody else.
And thank you, Kathy. Michelle, front facing. Yep, that's pretty much everywhere. How do you do that? Are you talking about brick and mortar stores or internet? Brick and mortar stores do front facing. Internet, you want to have a full store. You want to have a big store so it's not just a few items. I know when everybody's starting off, you're going to have a limited number of items, but I have a full store that I share with you. I've got several full stores. It all comes back down to listing every single day, keeping fresh inventory turnover, and putting new stuff in your store, and moving stuff around, and switching titles, and switching, options on specific listings, getting movement on them in any way, shape, or form you can.
It just moved.
We might have missed somebody, so if we missed a question, please pop it back in there again. My feedback, I'm trying not to waste up. See, there's Duncan with the spiders.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the start again? Nope, Duncan. Nope, sorry. Yeah, if I missed your question, I 100% apologize. Where half the time my feed pops and then I'm gone and then I can't read it, and I'm trying to get to some more. Let me just go back because I do see one question. It looks like up there.
That's hilarious.
Let's see where. Yeah, I have 2 videos on record grading if you haven't seen the videos on record grading. And I've got another one up on... I've got 2 more just on shipping.
Somebody was talking about Scrimshaw.
Hang on, we're way off. I'm going to try to get some questions. My feed is terrible.
Waste engineer. Yay, squirrels.
Thank you, Jane.
Well, I have a squirrel that got attacked by a cat, so I pay him extra attention.
Yeah, she feeds them special.
His little tail got chewed off.
We didn't know if it was going to make it, but it's still doing fine, even with the broken toe and everything else.
Yeah.
Well, you're welcome, Heartland Ranch TV. Swamp Picker, how you doing? Sanitation engineer, there you go. Let's see. The Real is a high-end luxury clothing consignment. I don't think you'd like it. I wouldn't then. I can tell you right now.
Yeah, okay. Now I know what they're... Yeah.
Yo, see, you've heard about it, and I haven't heard about it.
I
See, we both, check out stuff on our own too. So.
You know, if we ever get filthy stinking rich, I can't spend $5,000 on a skirt.
No, I couldn't spend. I wouldn't want to spend $100 on something.
It just seems so stupid.
Where do I buy the majority of my my product? You name it, I buy it there. Wholesalers,
we beat up chumps and take their
chumpettes. I buy it anywhere I can. I'm thrift stores are dead around here. I don't have much of a thrift store market, so that's why we've switched stuff around. Wholesale is a huge plus for anybody if you know how to do it right. Wholesale is great for us. RA is great for us, so I don't need to say where RA is because you can pretty much RA anywhere. And then I do pickers. I have right now one of my pickers passed a few months back, so I've got 7 people right now that routinely call me on specific items. And then we do antique stores, flea markets, and estate sales as well too, which are all good sources. Depends on what you're looking for. Even like church sales. It depends on what you're looking for, though, as to where you want to go to find something. I look outside the box and go to places that most people would think I'm crazy and I'm wasting my time, but I know what I'm looking for at oddball places where a reseller would not put foot in that I can still resell from. So thinking outside the box. And that's why I say sell something that no one else is selling. Sell something that everybody else thinks is stupid or is not going to make any money. Find your niche. That's the best way to do it.
And this is the second one. Well, I mean, not the second one.
Orbital Search Group. Hi, Don. Love your videos. With 20,000 listens, what do you figure is the time to sell Alta? I've got 55 or 56,000 listings right now, Bill. I don't worry about how long it takes me to sell those 22,000 listings because we're listing some days 200 new listings every single day of the week on some weeks. So I don't pay any mind to what's going on with that. What I pay attention to is the dollar amount I'm spending on fees versus the dollar amount of profit. And I'm talking net, the actual profit. After everything's said and done, we hit 80%. And I know that percentage isn't key, but if every day I'm getting 80% profit on $800 or $1,000 worth of merchandise, I don't care how long it takes me to sell the items. I sell them for 2 or 3 times what many people do for a large chunk of my items. So if you're selling something for 10, I might sell it for 30, so I don't have to even sell as many. I don't worry at all about an ROI on any of these. Or not an ROI, I'm saying a sell-through rate. I do worry about an ROI, but the sell-through rate means nothing. So talking about how long would it take me to, I don't care. 3 years is usually the line when I draw, when I start to pull stuff down. In some cases, depending on the item, I don't even pull it down after 3 years. So just keep that in mind.
Land shark picker. Donna's a little behind on the chat.
Yeah. I'm working. Let's go back and get some ones. Yeah, record classification is a different story. I'm sorry. It's you have to know.
The bearded picker. This is my best day listing on
That's
eBay
the
this
3
year.
listings. Well, congratulations, Scott. I'm not going to go back into it, but we've listed a couple hundred today. So
Yeah, don't go on a
I
rant.
think I just lost where we were at again. Did I not?
Well, you were doing good until you clicked
No,
again.
but it. Hang on. I hate our feed. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I see people saying they're buffering too. Let's move down. Most you paid for a post. What is the most I paid for a postcard? $5 maybe in the last 2 years. I don't think I've spent more than $5 on a postcard at all. Most of the time it's $1 or less on every postcard I buy, or less. Sometimes it's like a penny or less because I buy them in huge bulk from auctions.
What do you think of old yearbooks?
Old yearbooks sell very well. I sell them all the time. Old yearbooks with someone famous in it's the best bet to go. I had talked about sharing some sites, but I really can't do that. There's sites out there that I am privileged to be a part of. They're not something that I created. They're something that people have been gracious enough to allow me to join their page, so I can't share that. But if you're lucky enough, there are some sites out there that list who's in which yearbook. Those are the ones you want. Some yearbooks can sell, and I've got a video on that too, so you can literally look in my past videos. I literally talk just about yearbooks in a video. There's yearbooks that can sell for $1,000 because of who's in it, especially if they've signed it, like a Jim Morrison yearbook with his signature in it, which there are some out there, believe it or not. Jim Morrison, The Doors, sells for a lot of money.
Right here.
Hi, Don. I have 2 years experience selling shoes and clothing and ready to branch out. What categories of products would you recommend a newbie to get into? Wholesale is always good, and so is RA. If you want to branch out, that's a good source to it. Or cross-listing your items to start with. Why go worry about trying to get new items if you can cross-list and increase your sales that way first and then go after the other items? That's my personal opinion. We haven't done that as much as we should have in the past, and I'm guilty of not doing that, but as I said, since December, we've got all this plans in place. I've got notes and Sellbrite and all the other stuff we're doing is going to increase our exposure. Your exposure is what's important for most of this.
And they were talking about the yearbooks with the famous people. What was the lady's name, the actress's name, who was in The Fugitive with Harrison Ford? She was from Meridian.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, she ate in my restaurant even.
She played his wife in The Fugitive that dies.
I can't remember her name, but she's from the town we were in, and she used to eat in our restaurant all the time with her mom. And I've talked to her I don't know how many times.
We were at an antique store, and they had a yearbook with her.
Yeah. I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
Somebody will know who we're talking about.
I think her name begins with an S.
I can't think who she is.
That's funny.
Shouldn't sweat. Those are just something. Learn that Mont Blanc. No, it wasn't Mont Blanc. I can't remember what the pen was, but it was a gold one.
Scrimshaw.
Slide down further. Let's get some more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still got about 15 minutes, so we're going to cut it off there. So we should get to some more. Oh, hang on, I saw a question up there. Folding ruler.
Yeah, poops. I think it was Ivory.
No. Oh, yeah. What about selling ivory? No, don't sell ivory. Don't touch it. Don't buy it. Don't have it in your possession. Turn it over if you've got it, because they bust people all the time for doing that. There's actually I can't remember the name of it, but they did a big, huge sting, just like, remember that one where they got that art dealer and he thought he was just doing something okay and it was vintage? Oh, shoot. They do stings on that. So I don't mess with anything that's legal, so I don't care what the profit margin is. I love elephants. When our son was first born, our first son, our oldest one, we decked out everything in elephants, and we had Babar, everything.
Nursery.
His nursery room had hundreds of elephants in it. We bought them everywhere.
Little stuffed animals.
Little stuff, little figurines and stuff. I mean,
But that one guy got busted. He was selling ivory that he claimed was vintage, and it wasn't.
yeah, and he got himself into some trouble. He's in jail for
I
like
believe
10
he's in
years.
prison now.
You have a folding ruler. That's a tough one because it could be in bone or it could be in ivory.
And
Ivory?
I don't know how to test for it.
Ivory will have a grain on wood pattern to it. Some bone can, but for the most part, it's the ivory that does. It could be even Bakelite, believe it or not, because there's some Bakelite that looks real close, and you can tell with the hot needle for the most part. You didn't pass any of you? Okay.
They're just happy spiders.
No happy spiders.
Except for the jumping spiders. I like those little guys. They're cute.
Altogether, we have like 500 videos. That's counting my Patreon, too. We've got 32. It'll be 33 videos on Patreon as of tomorrow, and the rest will be...
Seal Award. That's
Seal
it.
Award, that's
I
exactly
knew it.
it.
Yep.
She used to
Thank
eat in our
you.
restaurant all the time, and I've talked to her in person. I've even sat down at her table when she had an issue once
She
before.
was very nice, but we got the yearbook.
Yeah, we
Boy,
did
my
buy that
brain
one, too.
can't work today.
I bought it, and I was going to bring it in, but then I didn't want to draw any lines and hitting her up with her family and stuff to have her sign it. But,
Yeah.
you know, I thought about it. I didn't do it just because I wouldn't want to be bothered if it was me or something. But, you know, I knew her. I could call her by her first
They
name.
always went to
Applebee's.
Cracker-
Well,
and Cracker
it was
Barrel.
Applebee's and Cracker Barrel. So I worked at Applebee's, and then I quit Applebee's and went to Cracker Barrel for more money, of course. But she's from Meridian. She lives in there, and her mom would come up and talk to me too before I knew her. It was her mom. You know, I had no idea. She was just some nice lady who came into our restaurant.
She was very nice.
The last time we saw her was though in Cracker Barrel. The risk of watching an item you want and not buying it. It's going to be gone.
A Conklin rolled gold vintage fountain pen.
No, that's not. I can't. I wished I could remember. It's like a Pierre Cardin or something like that. But it was 14 karat gold. I just scratched off the printing, the printing on it, and I sold it anyway. Roll Tide. He's given. See, Land Shark's here now going off on Scott. If you haven't watched Scott's a riot when you watch his show. It's always Roll Tide. He's from Bama. He's Bama bound. If you didn't know that, so Scott's a pretty good guy. I'm glad his wife's finally done with some stuff. I know she has a big surgery and all.
Oh, so Seal Award is on an FBI show on CBS.
Didn't know that. We don't watch TV. Only stuff online.
Freaking Roll Tide.
Elephants is Duncan's avatar. Yeah, where's Bearded Picker now? Now that everybody's calling it Roll Tide on him.
I'm here exhausted from listing my 3 eBay items.
Yeah, I know. That's a pretty rough day, Scott. I don't know how you do it. I'm dumbfounded how you can get so much up there, Scott.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
Scott's a riot, I have to say.
You want to spill some beans on Disney?
Oh, let's spill one Disney story. I'll spill one and I'll let the wife spill one because we are running down. There's no way
There's so
getting
many.
I'm getting down to the bottom of the thing here.
It was.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of promoting anybody else, but that's fine. I'm going to do a video on that because we do get that kind of item. But I got you, Annie. You're okay. I'll give you a story of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride first. And I worked in Magic Kingdom. I worked there we did 10 years for Disney, both of us. We have a pension. It's through Dean Witter, so I mean, it's a legitimate thing. Disney's a company we worked for a while. I was a lead, basically, and helped replace and made sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to at the Magic Kingdom. And this is before they got rid of that position. It doesn't exist anymore. They don't have that position anymore. And a girl was down, and she dropped something off the ride when she was she dropped something off the ride, and her hair got stuck in the track where the car rollers were that actually advances it on the track. And the maintenance guy came up there to get her off there before it ripped her scalp off, which was what would have happened, because I've seen some pretty horrific things in there. I'll tell you one real quick one after that too. But the ride was supposed to be shut off, and he had put the emergency button shut off that shut the ride off and all the power for the track, so the car wouldn't move forward. While the only way to get the girl's hair out of the track, because she was all hysterical at this time. She was like 7. It was a cute little girl, nice little girl, and she was with their family. There was people screaming. It was a very, very, very awful experience. And the manager came up. I won't mention his name because he's an idiot, and some people will know who we're talking about. We have some friends who do watch our show. And he come up, and why is the ride stopped? And he immediately pulled the safety release off and slammed on the start button. And the maintenance guy just got the girl's hair cut to get it off, but his hands were in the track, and the manager cut off the maintenance guy's fingers in front of me, right there in front of customers and guests, because he didn't look at the issue when the emergency stop was pressed. That's a true story. And this is going to sound awful. The maintenance guys at Disney, they're WED. It's a special department at their union, but the point of it is, I could always tell, and I'm not trying to be funny, and I'm not trying to be bad towards eBay, or not eBay, towards Disney. I'm sure most theme parks have similar possible issues. I could always tell how long a employee worked in the repair department at WED by holding up their hand.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not being funny.
No.
Many had missing fingers from working on the attractions at Disney. That's true. Disney can say whatever they want. I saw it in my own 2 eyes. I have no agreement with Disney saying I can't say this. So that's a true story. That actually happened in front of my face because the manager didn't take the time to inspect what was going on. And literally, I looked at their hands. I looked, and it got to be an inside joke to some extent. But I'll let the wife give out one too.
Do you remember what I told you about your supervisor?
What?
He needs to go hunting with my dad.
Oh, yeah. But that would be more an intentional.
Here, wear this hat.
Boy, my 410 just went off, and I've got a slug in there, and man, I hit the wrong thing.
No, like the old cartoons where they give the mother-in-law the antlers.
The antlers. Yeah, I remember that one
wear
too.
This. Yeah,
I'm sure you've got your own true
He needed
story.
a hat with some antlers on it for sure. My dad's a good shot too.
You want to give out a story?
I was a vacation planner, and we have to walk out. We used to walk out with a locked box, with a security guard. No, an armed security guard, and they walked us into a booth that was locked, and we were on video camera the whole time. And I was about to take a break and noticed. This is awful. Notice this lady from another country.
Oh, geez, here we go.
Behind our booth. And I had no idea what she was doing. She was kind of bent over and moving weird. And we had this bulletproof little window out the back, and I'm trying to peer through it. And it suddenly became clear to me what she was doing, and I got on the phone and called my supervisor, and I really felt for my supervisor that day. But the lady was using the bathroom right there behind our booth, and it wasn't number one either.
And that may sound peculiar, but every week we saw somebody urinating or defecating in a bush,
and this
in the line.
This isn't in a bush or anything. This is everybody's walking by and looking and gasping and can't believe it, and she was just letting it go.
True story.
And the bathroom was 10 feet away, so that's a good one.
Dominique, I think, was talking about going to Disney. For all those who've been to Disney and know what the Tower of Terror is, if you look at the outside of the Tower of Terror, almost up to the top where the door opens up and shows you the last peak of reality before you get the drop off the top of that. Again, you'll have to look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about, but there's a pipe section that pops out from the side of the attraction and then goes up about 10 feet and then disappears back into the Tower of Terror. It used to be. I don't know if they fixed it since then.
You'd hope.
Right after they built the ride, and people died making that. That's true, too. The ride created a vacuum, and it wasn't well constructed. So when the drop happened from this vehicle, The wife's been on it. We've been on it.
I hate it.
It sucked in the wall of the attraction, and it all came tumbling down on everybody on the ride. And we're talking metal and shards and stuff. I don't know how many hurt because I wasn't in the ride itself, but I remember the day it happened because the sirens were going off left and right. They closed that section of the park down. You could see smoke coming out of the ride, and it was shut down for a while. And the proof of the pudding that this happened is looking at the pipes, because they had to reroute it all, and then they added bracers that there were I-beams in front of that now. So I mean, I know some inner workings on some stuff just because we worked there for 10 years, but another true story. But anyway,
Duncan, him trying to eat here.
Trying to eat here. I could tell you some stories if you want to hear some better stories than that, but we'll just end it on the story wise. Let's see if we can get a couple more questions out of here, maybe. Let's see here.
As our dog hacks up a hairball.
And again, hopefully everybody feels for Scott. He actually got 3 listings up, so.
Where's the story go?
Yeah, we'll end it on the stories there. Let's see where we at. Yeah, I've been at Space Mountain. I've got to walk the tracks on Landshark. I've got video of it, with all the lights on and stuff.
But talk about the Godiva on Mr. Toad's.
Well, we don't want to go too many questions. We're going to get some more questions. Well, if Mr. Toad's ride, since we did talk about Mr. Toad's, one of the doors opens up and you're going from one room to the other.
No, it's when you first get on it and the
Is it
door
right in the
closes.
beginning?
Yeah, when you get on it. And
You
the
have
door
to look
closes.
behind you. Well, you can't do it anymore as the ride's been torn up. But when you looked behind you, there's a nude 6-foot painting of Lady Godiva with full frontal, basically, exposure in it. It's the only nudity that I could say I've ever seen in Disney. But I didn't. Somebody pointed it out to me who was taking a picture or something, and I'm like, "What do you?"
Of it.
You probably did take one too.
That's how I roll.
Let's see if we got any more questions.
Oh, they had grad night. Oh, and they had grad night when we were there too in the 90s.
Grad night was a big event for us because literally we usually volunteer to do it because you can mess with people as an employee. You could do stuff. We used to take water balloons.
How about the teens that tripped on mushrooms?
People would always do that. They'd
They
always
got
get
out.
high and stuff on the rides. The Skyway was the biggest thing everybody had smoked pot on. But what we used to do, and no one complained or anything, on grad night we'd get water balloons and we'd hide out in Small World and some of the rides. And when they were like, kissing or something or something on the rides, we'd bomb them from nowhere.
That wasn't me.
We used to do that all the time, and they didn't. The park was a fun time, and we let them do stuff that normally you couldn't do at Disney sometimes. But we used to bomb them with water balloons from inside the attractions with the lights off, so they'd never know where it was coming from. It's not like they could get out there in the middle of a boat in the water. There's nowhere for them to go. But anyway, that's our grad night fun.
Any idea when the seller update will be?
Yeah, I already touched that in the end of this month. Yeah, Scott's got to do a video on his big day. That's a good one there. I would love to hear a little about on your inventory search. I've got actually a video on it. If you go to my how-to playlist and type in inventory, I've got a video. And I do have another one coming out on video or on inventory, and I'm going to address that issues too, because I'm doing some cross-listing, so I want to be able to address the inventory issues. And I do have a video on too. One of the questions on my Patreon was covering my 90 days, so that is included on this weekend's Q&A for my Patreon video. So just FYI.
Were you there during gay days? Yes,
all the time. They wore. Wasn't it red? They wore. Wasn't it red shirts?
Well, I think so. But James, he would dress up as Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah, we know people.
That?
Yeah, we've got photos of that.
Oh my gosh, his costume was awesome.
Worked there for a long time. We've seen every event or anything you could do there. We used to volunteer for all the bigwig events and the when a corporation rented out the park too.
Duncan.
You don't want to know my food-related stories, Duncan. I'm giving you the non-food-related stories. If you want to hear some food-related stories, I could do a day just talking about some of that stuff.
The jalapeno pepper juice and the ketchup. Ooh.
Yeah, we won't get into that. So let's get some more questions. So again, I will have a video on storage, and there is one up right now too. I'll have an updated one on that. Let's see. Boy, do I need an inventory story. Yeah, I'll go over that as I said.
I think it was the same people I saw at Disney.
Yeah, I could see that in nightclubs as well too. We saw stuff like that at Disney too. You'd see all kinds of stuff. I won't even get into that. It looks. Let's go back because I know I missed some questions here.
Jinkies.
What are you doing to the dog?
Let me go take care of the dogs.
Go ahead.
Bye, guys.
My better half is leaving, so you're stuck with me, folks.
Bye, Duncan.
We'll cut it off. I'll go through a few more here. We still got, well, it's 9 o'clock. We'll take a couple more questions. I know I keep saying that. I know it's ran a little long today, but in fact, I think I actually got to most of the questions. Hopefully I got to everybody's questions. Hang on, I just saw one I didn't get to. It's bouncing all over, so I don't know if I'll get to your question or not, because I can't find it now. Let's see here. Where are we at? Yeah, let me just go over a few things on here, then we'll probably call it quits. I won't do another story because I could make some people sick here if I wanted to. One thing that I constantly hear, and this will be the last, this will be like the word for the day, I guess. If you hate your job now and you are doing okay on eBay, don't ever quit your job even if you hate it. And that's one thing. I get questions, and I had a couple just today. When should I quit my day job? When is it safe to do it? I can't give you that answer, and I would never want to tell you you should ever quit a day job or anything else like that. You're going to have to figure that one out on your own for those folks who didn't ask that question. I don't have a correct answer for that. I had no choice, and we had other people that could help. And most of the people that ask these questions or talking about these questions are a one-man person or one-woman person shop. And I have no way to relate to your personal experience, your personal income, your personal anything on that. So rule of thumb, in my personal opinion, would be to at least be making more than you were making on your day job. At least that would be the best judge on that. Keep doing your secondary job as long as you can, to at least get that income coming in. I mean, it's all about making money. Don't cut off your cow, your holy grail cow, which is your money cow, your actual day job. eBay is still a fluctuation platform for those just starting off. You haven't figured it all out yet if you're new. You haven't figured out the ins. You haven't figured out other sites. You haven't figured out enough to make it a full-time. If you did it 5 or 10 years ago, yeah, you can pretty much judge on it. But nowadays, there's no time for a learning curve if you're going to be all in on online sales. You have to know every aspect of the site that's going to get you your money. You have to know that this is the way you list this item, or this is the title you want to list in that item, because it's going to sell it better. We were doing, consultations on the phone, but, and the biggest thing was people would ask me, what about this item? What about that item? Usually it was the terminology. They just didn't know that this would make this item sell, or this would make that item sell. It's back to keywords, and I think hasn't been a time when I haven't gotten a list of items, like the people who I would chat with. They'd give me a list of items sometimes that they were having issues with, they couldn't sell. I think every time someone gave me a list, a couple of those items I was able to immediately tell them. Most of the time I could tell them all the items, but the majority of the items, though, wouldn't sell immediately. They would be a little longer tail. But every time I've told somebody, do this, do that, fix your listing, fix the title, they have done that, and they have sold something on it because they didn't understand the terminology in a niche category for the most part. So that's what I should say. You have to know your area empirically. You have to know all the aspects of it, the ins, the outs, the whole aspect before you risk cutting off your income from your main source of income. We had no choice. I didn't have a job. We were wiping out our savings account, so I had no choice but to bust down and do it. And the minute you drop down and you do quit your full-time job to do eBay as a full-time job, you darn well better invest all that extra time into doing eBay. So if you were doing 40 hours on your full-time job and you were getting in another 20 hours on eBay, the minute you cut off your full-time 40-hour job, you invest that 40 hours straight back into eBay, or more. It'll probably be more, honestly. You should be doing 65 or 70 hours on just eBay. Again, it's not going to be as much of a hassle as what you were working for somebody else, because, again, you're not driving anybody anywhere if you're just listing or something like that. And you can set your own schedule, but don't get yourself in trouble. It's all going to be business when you start off. You're going to do a year or two of suffering, I can tell you for sure, unless you get lucky enough, especially in the way the market is now. So don't count your chickens before they're hatched, and don't look a gift horse in the mouth about all these other sites and cross-listing and advancing your business that way. It's not always the best thing to do to go to another site immediately. Learn your sites first. Cross-list those items, because there might be a better site to sell them on. So you don't have to learn a new site, or a new item, I should say. You just go into another site with that same item. That's what we're doing. I'm going to be dumping 20, 30,000 listings onto Amazon all at the same day, all at the same time, and we're going to play it by ear with that. So hopefully that's an idea. You're pushing 25 new subs a day. That's great. Social Blade had come to see. Yeah, we average about 20 to, say, 130 subs. Average is about 20 some odd a day I do get, so that is a true number. I don't look on Social Blade. I don't care where my standpoint is. No, not trying to be dogging on you for bringing that up at all. I'm not worried about that. We'll get to where we get, and if, we don't get to some horrendous amount of subscribers, I don't get there. I'm not playing that out by ear. I love what I do. And I love talking about what I do, so this is a big fit for me. So anyway, I'm going to call it quits for tonight. I tried to get to as many questions as I could. I think I got to the majority of them for once. I know I may have missed some again because our feed just bounces all over. So again, I appreciate everybody coming on. Thanks again for those with the super chats. If you haven't hit the like button, please, for crying out loud, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Again, if you don't leave feedback or you don't leave, comments in the live chat, if you got a question, feel free to leave them. There's no wrong or right answer as well, too. So again, good night, everybody. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate everybody and all that you do for the channel. So have a good night. Have a good sales day. And we will see you again next week.